Welcome to the 40th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today, we're going over the Winter 2018 season's third and fourth week of shows. Just as a reminder, we also always include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and the podcast feed if you only want to hear about one or two specific shows, since we spoil literally everything. My name is Bcom.
And my name is Leo. Did we miss something?
Isn't this the part where we usually make each other say something we would never want to say?
My name is Kat, and I love citrus.
Whoa, Leo, did one of your cats give birth to a sentient talking cat?
Well, I am surrounded by new kittens, but I'm pretty sure none of them turned out to be a cat girl.
No, my name is Kat, you morons. I'm not actually a cat girl.
Well, that remains to be seen, but as long as you're a fan of citrus, I think everything will be okay and you'll fit in just fine.
That's right, everybody. We've added a new podcast host. Everyone say hello to Kat.
Hey.
Yay, Kat.
Hooray.
Okay.
How about you give us a little history on your anime experience?
Sure. Yeah, I've been watching anime since I've been in high school. Ran my anime club for a while. Had a brief couple years where I sort of stopped watching and then got back up again. And
I think everybody kind of does that.
Yeah, isn't that weird how that happens?
Yeah. Everybody, I feel like most people I've talked to, they've had this one period where they watched the anime and then they just didn't for like 2 or 3 years. And then they started back up again. It's weird.
It's a test to see if you're like going to continue or if it's just going to be a high school thing. Like if you come back after. It's almost like, what's that Jewish thing? Or is it Jewish or is it, no, it's Mormon. Where they...
Which thing?
It's like...
Are you talking about the Amish?
Yes, the Amish.
Yeah, where they get to when they turn like, it's off the top of my head, like 16 or 18, they can leave the Amish community and go like experience the rest of the world for like a year or two.
Rumspringa. That's right. That
yeah,
sounds
I thought it was called like the
Jewish,
Devil's something or something like that. I don't know. I remember this documentary.
You have to remember, you have to think though that Rumspringa does kind of sound like a Jewish word, even if it's not.
I will admit that does sound similar.
So as we record, it's Valentine's Day, and I wrote a poem for you guys.
Oh, God.
That I found on the internet.
Oh, no.
Roses are red, lilies are best. You should watch Citrus, I truly incest.
Jesus.
God damn it. Do you know where you found that? Can you give credit to whoever wrote that?
It was a retweet from somebody, so I don't know where the source came from.
So bad. Yeah, as a note, when we decided to add Kat to the podcast, part of her contractual agreement stated that she would like to review Kokkoku because it's actually like a good show.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to fucking let you kick out Kokkoku for citrus. God damn.
Exactly. I'm a horrible person and I put it on the bubble with citrus and chose citrus over it. But yeah, to make everybody happy for our 10 shows, we're adding Kokkoku back into the 10 because that's Kat's lock, basically. And we're removing citrus, kind of. You can't truly kill the trash that is citrus because the trash will always rise again.
Well, I mean,
that's a promise I make to you, the listener.
Right? Like, this is just our podcast hate watch.
Absolutely.
Usually that ends up being one of our locks. By accident.
This is true. Look, sometimes I'm just like, I was thinking about Kokkoku, I was thinking about citrus, and I was like, which one will I have more fun talking about? And I was like, probably citrus. So that was how that decision came about. But I like Kokkoku, and actually I'm kind of glad we kept it. Episodes 3 and 4 were pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So we could get into that, starting with Sundays, if you want to start with Kokkoku, the synopsis.
Sure. So in episode 3, I like to sort of group, it seems like this anime is set around like 2 or 3 groups of people and how they're interacting. So I sort of like to keep to what which group is doing. So right now, Juri is kind of mostly with her granddad, but sometimes she's alone. So like episode 3 starts, you remember in episode 2 where she's like being strangled like to death or whatever?
Yes, I do remember.
Yeah. So then
it's pretty brutal.
She figures out while she's about to die that she can like kick people out of stasis by like hitting them, sort of like some dramatic sci-fi bullshit. Like she sort of hits them in slow motion and they just like freeze. It's kind of cool, actually.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. It's kind of like a Jackie Chan moment or something. It's like, anyway. So she's able to get out of that chokehold, and she expels several of those sort of thugs from stasis. Mm-hmm. And then she was at her house, remember? So then she takes the stone after she's escaped and runs out. And then she meets up with her granddad. And of course, it seems like everywhere these fucking people go, like they meet more cult members. I don't know why all the cult members are spread out like everywhere. It's like the zombie apocalypse, but with cult members. I don't know.
It's weird, yeah, that they're all like in stasis, but they're all like weirdly spread out over the city. It's kind of strange.
It's like some of the little groups kind of like went rogue and are just kind of fucking around doing their own thing, like looking up girl skirts in the convenience store.
Right.
Well, and the thing is, some of them are actual cult members, right? And then some of them are just thugs hired by the cult.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, so they meet up with more cult members. They run away from them. While that's happening, Makoto and Juri's brother, like, wake up from stasis. So I think as Juri is expelling... So, like, when she expels people from stasis, what she's really doing is getting those, like, weird jellyfish things out of their bodies, right?
Right.
And I think once they go out of one person's body, they, like, tend to go into another person's body. And because Makoto and Juri's brother are, like, part of that family, like, the jellyfish are attracted to them. So they wake up once more people are kicked out of stasis. But they have no fucking idea what's going on because, like, no one's explained anything to them. So they're just sort of wandering around aimlessly most of this episode. So that's...
Yeah, and isn't, like, Makoto's, like, running around, like, being a little shit, like, hiding and, like, screaming and yelling, like, at, like, the older brother and stuff. It's kind of funny, actually.
Well, yeah, because, like, he just thinks it's, like, a game, right? And the brother... Right. While her brother is really sweet, her brother's kind of an idiot. So he's just like, whoa, what do I do? I guess we should wander around aimlessly. Like, whereas if I was in that situation, I'd probably be like, let's be a little safer. Like, obviously something is fucked up. Like,
I don't know. He's a little kid. He's not quite grasping the situation. But then at, like, one point, doesn't he kind of, like, he's like, but, like, he finds his mom frozen, and then he kind of starts making more sense to him. Like, that, this is sad. This is not good.
Yeah, that's in the next episode for sure.
Yeah.
I actually like the voice acting a lot for Little Kid because it's by, like, an actual little kid who was born in, like, 2007. So he was, like, 10 or 11 when he recorded all this dialogue. That's so I like that he actually sounds like a little kid because he is one. It's pretty cool. But yeah, there was a couple weird, like, I don't know, like, you wrote something like, this anime has some weird tones sometimes because, like, at the beginning there's, like, Juri being, like, choked out by that guy, like, just literally the life choked out of her, and then, like, at the end there's the scene of, like, those thugs in a grocery store, like, pulling down some frozen woman's panties, which is, like, really screwed up, but also I guess if
totally
the world froze,
right?
Like, this is what Skeevy Dies would do.
Yeah, like, it's definitely a choice though, right? Like, it's not... Right. It's definitely what Skeevy Guys would do. I could totally see it. There's weird points of this anime where all of a sudden, it's almost like they thought to themselves, we need, like, fan service of some sort. But instead of...
Like the ED.
The ED.
Ending is just fan service.
Yeah, we've already talked about the ED. I think that was in our impressions, but we were like... Because as soon as I saw the ED, I messaged you, Bcom, and I was like, okay, there was no fan service in the show, and then the ED starts, and I'm like, did they just cram it all in the ED? What the hell, dude?
No,
but then, as it's gone on, there's been more.
Yeah, they add like a minute or two each episode of weird, semi-rapey fan service.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. It's like that hentai where, like, they all, like, gang up on some girl or something. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, like, this one, there's definitely sexual tones in the strangling thing. Usually there is if you're straight, like, holding a girl down, you know. And then the thing with the skirt. Yeah. So
because when the guy's choking her, he's, like, basically mounted on top of her when he's doing it. So
and they're holding her down. Something like, "Ooh, I want to have, like, my turn at her" or some shit. So there's definitely some weird rapey stuff, but, like, takes up like a minute at most of each episode. So it's enough where like you almost blink and it's gone and you're like, wait, did that just happen?
Yeah, and it just serves to like make the villains more evil, I guess. But I don't know. It's like not the greatest writing for villains, I feel like, because it's just like lowest common denominator dialogue, in my opinion. It's like, oh, I'm going to rape this girl. Okay,
yeah, well, I guess we decided like some of the members are just actually were gang people that were hired by the cult. But
right.
Yeah.
You guys, anything else you want to say about episode 3?
Well, we can go on to episode 4 because that stuff continues there.
Kat, please tell me how much of a badass Jury is in episode 4.
Well, so she just, I guess, becomes like some sort of weird ninja assassin of like cult members. So Jury and Grandpa are like together again in episode 4, and I think there are like 2 or 3 instances where they run into cult members in this, and like each time she's just like, ooh, let me whoop out my like Jackie Chan move and like get all these dudes. I'm just like, can't we? I don't know. Do you have like a second move? Like, if it's a video game, like
her power just requires her to touch them, so she's definitely gives her a major advantage. For sure. And she's a smart person. She's realized that she has this major advantage, so she's just using it to her, best capabilities, which I think's awesome because Jury's a very smart person.
No, yeah, Jury is smart. I think at some point she's going to get like power number 2 or something, because that's usually the way that goes. But she hasn't yet.
Right. She'll level up.
Yeah, exactly. So they decide to go back to the hideout where like Tsubasa, which is Jury's brother, and Makoto were originally held, like where they were originally going to go and pick them up when this whole thing started. So because they decide like, well, we should go get them. So they're on their way to go to the hideout, and the grandpa and Jury have this conversation about the first time that they were in stasis together, which Jury like very vaguely remembers because she was pretty young, and it was like 17 years ago. And from what I gather, they didn't go like too far into what spurred it, just a little bit. But I think the granddad, like, so Jury's dog is about to die and she's upset about it. And I think he used the stone like to try and get her to accept that the dog is going to die, which is kind of a fucked up reason to use the stone. But okay.
Yeah, they like stop time so the dog's not quite dead, but he's like, if we go back, the dog's gonna die. Like, but you can stay here for as long as you need, but we have to go back and let life go on, is basically what he tells her.
Yeah, which I'm like, that was probably not the best choice, but whatever. Okay, Grandpa. So they have that conversation. They reach the hideout. They realize like Tsubasa and Makoto are not there, and then they backtrack back to the house that Jury just left last episode, like to see if they're there, basically. And then now there's like kind of a new group in this episode that starts to be focused on more, which is Shoko, which is like that woman that is with the cult and the thugs. Who,
right.
Like, you get the idea that she knows a lot, but you don't know how she knows a lot, basically.
She also looks like exactly like Motoko Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell.
Like, yeah.
Distractingly so.
Yeah, and so she seems to be in charge of this group of thugs that were hired by the cult, and they are at the house that Jury and the grandpa are like heading towards. And they are like, okay, so then one of the thugs in the house tries to kill one of those like frozen people, and then a herald comes once again and kills that thug. And so it's funny because they keep not telling any of the cult members or the thugs that like if they try to kill someone that they're going to get killed by one of these weird herald things. And so it just keeps happening. Yeah,
I think they were like, some of them were warned at one point, but then a lot of them just didn't take it very seriously, and they find out the hard way.
Yes, exactly. So after, and you get the idea that each time the herald kills someone, it gets smaller, right? So then after this time the herald kills that particular thug, the herald collapses and gets even smaller. And Shokoko kind of like reaches her hands into this weird sandy like thing that the herald becomes. And there's this like weird mutated human corpse in there. Like it's got like organs, right? And it's got a head, but like most of the body is like not there anymore. It's almost like a Attack on Titan style mecha, if like the Attack on Titan people didn't need like arms and legs, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess that guy is probably like one of their family's ancestors, if it's the same Herald as the other one. Because like the grandfather told her in an earlier episode, like, yeah, our Herald is one of our ancestors who messed around with stasis too much and turned into that tree thing. So
yeah, one of the big things
be him.
Yeah, one of the big things seems that the Heralds are like losing power. That's why it keeps getting smaller. So it brings up the question, what's their power source? And how is this playing into the show?
I won't get into it too much because that's next episode. So next episode, they explain a lot more about the Heralds. So
cool.
So I still like am confused by like how stasis works, because at one point in this episode the grandpa like talks about we can leave stasis for a moment and then return immediately so they can't follow us. But I was like, wait, but as soon as you leave stasis, time it has stopped moving for everybody else except for you, so then they can just go find where you left stasis, unless like they physically leave stasis entirely and then aren't in the other world for these guys to come find. I don't
think
know
that's
how it works.
So
that might be how it works.
They explain it like a film, like a piece of film out of a roll, right? And like if you jump out of that and then go somewhere else, they're like trapped. They can't. But I don't think he knows everything either. So like the grandpa doesn't know all that much about these other stones that the cult is using to follow them. Right. And from what I've seen, it seems like these stones are like linked to the main stone, right? And so they can follow. Yeah. It's almost like they're just a follower. Like they just follow the main stone. So I don't think that would actually work, even though the grandpa doesn't know that.
Yeah,
because they would just follow them again.
There's so much speculation on how stasis works right now that like we need a lot more information to even figure out what's going on. But like you said, the next episodes really get into that, so we have that to look forward to.
Yep.
Oh, and then there was that weird scene where like one of these like old guys goes into a grocery store and he sees this like big-breasted woman like shoplifting meat.
I know.
And he's like, weird. What a lowlife. But then after he calls her a lowlife, he goes up to her and he's like, what if I was to like unbutton her blouse though? It's just like, it's another one of those weird scenes. It's just like, why is this here? I don't know, but all right.
Yeah. I mean, and then like you said, you blink and it's over and you're like, did that happen?
It's just like, I guess like one animator on the staff is like super horny and just wants to put these scenes into each episode. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
But if we don't have anything else to say about Kokkoku, we can move on to the next one.
Yep, that sounds good.
So Mitsuboshi Colors, episode 3. So this one starts out with Sachan's mom, who works at a fruit stand, and she has a mission for the Colors, which is like, she says, I have a huge problem. And they come to her and like Kotaha's like, is it a dead body? And the mom's like, no, it's much worse. And she's like, I have a bunch of unsold bananas. And then Sachan's like, but they're so appealing. Punning on banana peels. It was good. I like how Kotaha like cracked up for a solid minute as the scene continued about that joke. So they go out, they try to like sell the bananas, and like they take advantage of this old man that they offer, or not just any old man, the guy who looks like Bato from Ghost in the Shell, who's always like helping them out. And like they're like, they give him a banana for free, and then they're like, oh, can you also pay for that and also the ones we're eating too? And then he's like, oh, he's a nice guy, so he buys like a bunch of bananas for them. And then they continue to use just like shady tactics to sell their bananas.
These
like,
kids are going places, man. Tell me.
Like they're grifters, yeah. Like some Yakuza guys come up to them at one point and they're like, stop selling bananas on our turf. And like Kotaha like pretend to like slice through them with a banana as if it was like a samurai sword. And like the Yakuza guys obviously are like having fun because they play along, and then like Kotaha like, or no, Sachan like fake shoots them with banana guns, and like one of them like falls down like he's dying. So like the Yakuza guys like love these girls too.
I know, everyone loves these freaking girls.
Yeah. And then of course, to sell the last bunch of bananas, they have to blackmail the police officer Saito. Like some old woman comes up to him asking for directions, and Kotaha's like, he kicked me. It was police brutality. And Sachan's like, yeah, he gouged my eyes out. And Yui's like, he split my butt in two. It's just like, really stupid. I like how Saito yells at her. Is like, that was a really dumb lie. And so like the old woman freaks out and thinks it's like a horrible police officer. But for selling all the bananas eventually, because Saito buys the bananas to get them to shut up, Sachan's mom gives them these chupacabra costumes to play around in. And I liked that, like, they were so excited, but as like they leave to go play, the mom says to herself, like, those things are really creepy.
I gotta ask you, Bcom.
Yeah.
Did you start thinking about Sakura Quest?
A little bit, yeah, for sure. Like the
Chupacabra.
Yeah, Chupacabra. Yeah, God, it's funny. Yeah, I don't know why the Chupacabra is such a big thing in anime, but apparently it is.
Apparently.
And then like the second half of the episode, the girls are given a bomb, quote unquote, by Bato to disarm, and he gives them this like weird, vague clue that to disarm the bomb, they have to cut the wire that is the same color as the middle eye on the shopping street. Like EYI, which is weird. But because they think it's an eye, they go searching this like underground market for like eyeballs, like, I don't know, like animal eyeballs or something. They go around and ask all these merchants. Well, they're supposed to ask them if they know where eyeballs are. But Sachan, for some reason, gets really sidetracked and starts asking every merchant if they sell poop. And like one merchant tells her, like, you can't go around yelling, like, do you sell poop? And she's like, why not? When the meat was alive, it was pooping, wasn't it? And eventually the meat will be poop again, right? And in the end, we'll all be poop.
You preach it, Bcom.
Our final destination is
psychological exploration of poop.
It was pretty awesome.
I love how the guy was like really blown away by it. He's like, you're right. And then she just like laughs and runs off. It's just stupid. And then like near the end, the girls run into this mysterious older girl named Nonoka. I don't remember seeing her before. I think it's her first introduction, but I'm not sure.
No, she was briefly in another episode.
Oh, was she? Okay.
Yeah.
And she helps them out, like telling them that sometimes things you're looking for are hidden in plain sight. And so Kotoha, who's like the one who always figures out everything, like figures out that the middle EY refers to the middle kanji of the sign in the shopping center. That's Ame Yoko. So EY is the middle kanji. Mm-hmm. And then they like climb up on this sign and like Saito yells at them for like being too dangerous. And yeah, he's like, Saito, when it's all calmed down, like asks Bato, like, not Bato, his name's not Bato. I keep calling him Bato from Ghost in the Shell. Please don't create games that are going to be like a nuisance to like everyone. And then the old man like responds like, it's for the girls. I don't care if it's a nuisance to you, which I thought was really funny. But yeah, it was a good episode. This show is so well written. Like, it may not be animated well, but like the jokes I find really land.
It's cute. It's really cute. Also, I guess it'd be like Bato if Bato was on vacation. I don't know.
Right.
Well, also, interestingly, he always has a different pair of sunglasses on.
Yeah, he had like a 2017 or 18 pair on. Like,
you know what? There may be something to this.
Okay, so they're eventually, I'm sure, going to have some sort of reveal of his face or something. Like, that's just the way it's going to be.
Oh, man. Okay, episode 4, Summer Festival. First half, No calls the Colors in for a mission. She says her bakery will be taken over by an ogre if they don't do something. The ogre is just her older sister, Mocha. She's going to inherit the shop from their father and turn it into an onigiri shop instead. No doesn't want this and was challenged by her sister to make bread as good as Dad's and invent a new bread item. She has the Colors try something she whipped up, and they all agree it's terrible. Like, really bad. And then, like, Mocha has, like, some onigiri with her and gives them to the girls, and they just absolutely love them. All kinds of different kinds. It's pretty nice. But Yui is going to be in a parade and do some of the dancing for her school and whatnot. Her two other friends waited out and watched the rest of the parade as they wait on her to show up, and they see like little shenanigan things, like they see a dragon and a baldy, and then finally Yui in her school dancing. They meet up with Yui after the parade to enjoy the festival. They all get sparkling necklaces and a raffle and just go about enjoying the festival and just doing pretty much random stuff. But from the beginning, I knew the animation wouldn't be that good, but anyways, they barely animated Yui dancing in the parade. It was mostly still frames for about everything in this episode. A ton of it was still frames.
It was pretty sparse, like especially that parade scene. Like I definitely noticed, like, oh, this is a lot of just still frames, which is kind of unfortunate. Like clearly they are not spending like as much time as they could like animating this thing, but I still think it pulls through because of the good writing. Like
I'll agree.
My favorite scene in this episode is when like Mocha comes into the shop and her ex like calls on the phone. she hands it to Kotaha to like, hey, you take care of this.
Well, doesn't she say something like, tell him that I don't ever want to talk to him again, or some like really cool brush off.
And her translation for that is, if you call me again, I'll shove a recorder in your eye and play The Tulips Are in Bloom. I was like, holy shit. This girl's dark.
And then one of the other girls who isn't like threatening this poor ex of Mocha's is like, oh, she's really an adult. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yes, being savage to your ex like proves that you are really an adult.
The only thing I got like a big kick out of this episode is like Yui, after her parade, just runs up to them. She got changed and she's just wearing a shirt that says myself printed on it in like capital letters. I just like stupid Japanese shirts that are in English. They're always great.
Yeah. This is why you should
Any more
never
love
buy
for this show?
a shirt that has Japanese on it, because you don't know what it says.
Exactly. And it's the same thing for them, just in reverse.
Yep.
All right, guys, ready?
Sure, yeah, we can move on to Mondays.
All right. Karakai Jozu no Takagi-san. Episode 3. Coffee, empty can, soda, muscle training, dubbing, umbrella. Blech.
The long titles are back. Let's
Jesus
go.
Christ. It's a centaur's life all over again.
Oh, God, yeah. It's ridiculous.
Anyways, okay. So, her first one, Mina feels like she's growing up and decides she needs to drink black coffee like adults. She hates it and gets teased by her other two friends, Yukari and Sane. That's all that happens. The jokes were eh.
Yeah, for that, it was like their faces were funny, but yeah, it was not much. Yeah.
Nishikata is walking home with Takagi and she asks if she can try his drink. He tries to embarrass her by saying, "Isn't this an indirect kiss?" But she doesn't care and drinks anyways. He gets it back and is almost too embarrassed to take a drink himself. Takagi reminds him it's an indirect kiss, and it startles him into dropping the can. So he throws it at a waste bin and miraculously makes it in. He also does this again with a second can, and then Takagi picks one up and tries, but like it's like the wimpy girl arm throw that people get teased for, and it doesn't make it. And so they challenge each other to a game. You know, the first one to miss has to do something for the other one, and she basically just hustled him because she nails that next shot. And then now he is indebted to owing her a favor. The next one is Mina again drinks some ramen soda and she keeps calling it spicy and it hurts. Yukari tries it and doesn't understand what hurts. But she has to burp and she doesn't want to because Mina will make fun of her. She does eventually burp during one of Mina's like crazy blah blah outbursts.
You might think it's like weird to call soda spicy, but like Japan has some really weird sodas too. And like just like normal sodas are kind of like, if you've never had soda before, think about like how weird it would be to taste like that weird crisp like carbonated like taste.
As I was growing up, I never had soda or anything.
You had the same experience as me then.
Whenever I did, it almost chokes you and it makes your tongue like hurt at first. I'm more used to it now, but I remember when I would like went to a friend's house in middle school and like, hey, you want a Mountain Dew? I'm like, sure. And I took a drink and I was like, oh my God, what is going on in my mouth?
Like it's crawling up your nose and it like, it does hurt a little bit if you're not used to it.
Like it would make my eyes water. It was that bad.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay, now, Nishikata, he's a man, so he's got to be, manly shape. So he decides to do push-ups as a form of self-punishment for getting teased every day. He overdoes it and is super sore the next day. So, of course, Takagi pokes him and he yells because he hurts so bad. But all in all, in the end, she encourages his training and embarrasses him by saying he looks more muscular. So, I love Takagi. She's so awesome.
She's great.
This is pretty funny. The three girls do dubbing for two casts are sitting next to each other. it's something fun I've done with friends before, where you're out eating, you see like another couple at their table, and one of you just monologues for the other one. It's
Yeah.
And in my experience, women will make people say the worst things I've ever heard in my life. I don't know why. I'm around some pretty crazy women. I'm just assuming that's it. But man, they just said some stuff. I'm like, I can't believe you're going there. But we go back to our adorable soon-to-be couple, end up sharing an umbrella home when it suddenly starts raining right at the end of the school day. Nishikata tries to scare her with a frog, but she thinks it's just cute and puts it on his shoulder, making him freak out instead. And then she continues to embarrass him by pointing out how they look like a couple, and she's like got her shoulder pressed up against him, and he's just like freaking out. If it wasn't obvious how much Takagi liked Nishikata at this point, well, it practically just spelled it out this episode, like flat out. There's no doubt in my mind.
She's got a crush on him. It's very clear. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's clearer than ever now. Should I get into episode 4? Is there anything else on episode 3?
I don't know. Kat, you got anything you want to say about it?
No, I mean, it's cute.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's just a cute little short comedy.
So episode 4, which is called Cleaning Duty / Kickover / Cold / Tailing.
A lot of slashes these past 2 episodes.
So Nishikata's teacher punishes him for being so friggin' loud in class all the time because of, Takagi. And he has to clean the science room after school. But when he goes to clean the room, in a callback to the earlier episode, this time Takagi actually is hiding in the locker and like scares the crap out of him when he opens it up, which was a good callback, I thought. Takagi like challenges Nishikata to rock, paper, scissors to decide who should clean like each corner of the room, basically. And she plays some mind games with him by announcing like, I'm gonna definitely throw rock, and he doesn't know what to throw. But they get interrupted because like passing by the classroom are Nishikata's friend Nakai and his cute, like ridiculously tiny little girlfriend who's very cute also. But they like ask what they're up to, and then they kind of get like embarrassed, like, and then when they leave, like Nishikata's like confused, but Takagi explains to him like, by the way, they're like going out with each other, and like she's like teasing him because she's like, oh, it must be so nice to enjoy your youth like alone on the rooftop like they are. So he gets really jealous. But as expected, Takagi like wins all of the rock, paper, scissors games, so Nishikata has to clean the whole room. But like, yeah, she was never asked to clean the room in the first place. She just wanted to be there, and she tells him she just wanted to enjoy her youth. So it's very cute. On their way home, Nishikata challenges Takagi to do a kickover competition on like a high bar. And he knows he can do one, and he knows that Takagi is wearing a skirt, so she'll probably be reluctant. But surprisingly, she goes anyway, but says he can't look. The second round through, though, like he doesn't believe that she's actually doing these kickovers, so he turns around to peek and see if she's cheating. And it turns out she was doing them, but like he keeps looking because he's like, oh no, her skirt's gonna like fly up. I'll get to see something. And she's literally wearing shorts underneath her skirt anyway, so there's no point to him looking. And he loses, and like Takagi just calls him a perv. And at home, Nishikata is watching like a ridiculously tropey romance show called 100% Unrequited Love.
Is that a reference to Udapri, by the way? I'm pretty sure
it might be like 1000%. Like, yeah, it could be. But it's like, it doesn't necessarily. Actually, I guess it does kind of look like Udapri too, the show. I don't know. But like, he has his AC blasting in the room, I guess, because he's getting a little too like hot. And he
a little too hot
gets
there.
sick. Exactly. He got really excited. But he gets a lot of ideas from the show. And even though he's like supposedly sick from this, he comes into school the next day and like he's wearing like a surgical mask over his face and he's coughing. But he tries to play it off like real suave, like the main character from the show. And like Takagi calls him out on it, and she spends the rest of the class just waiting for an opportunity to get her. He spends the rest of the class just waiting to get her back by telling her she's cute, like the character on the show would. But she legitimately thinks like he might be sick, or at least she knows better. And so she doesn't tease him at all until he finally admits that he really was just playing sick as an excuse because he went to bed really late and woke up late for school. And so then she's like, oh, so you're not sick? that means I can tease you. And so she like teases him like mercilessly like the rest of the day. And then, the last segment is just all those three girls again tailing Takagi and Nishikata as they leave like a Dagashi candy shop. And Takagi figures out that they're being tailed, and in order to like lose the tail, like pulls Nishikata into some bushes, like very, very close to each other, very cute. And it's just like a fun little cute scene. That's how it ends. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything else on this one. It was just a really cute episode.
No, yeah, it's cute. Like, the thing about all of these are very, very short sketches, so there ends up being quite a few in each episode, so it goes really fast, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
There's not a lot of meat in any of these.
It's kind of like Surrey Children in that way.
Yeah, it kind of is. It does remind me of that a little bit. Or like Aho Girl, except obviously this is more like focused on a romantic relationship, like one.
Yeah, it almost has like a 4-coma panel style to it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if this is based on a 4-coma.
It just says a manga. It's what we got listed right here.
Yeah, if it had based on 4-coma, we would have listed it. But yeah. All right, let's move on to the next thing. So on Tuesdays, we've got A Place Further Than the Universe. So episode 3, which is called The Follow Backs Don't Stop. The girls find out that there's like this high schooler who's going on the Antarctic expedition after all, and her name is Yuzuki Shiraishi, and she's an idol who's going to accompany the trip's news team and do streams on the conditions at the station and all this stuff. So Shirase like finds out about this, and she's like super pissed that someone beat her to it, and she's like asking the other two like, call the idols agency and see if you can like force my way onto the trip. But like as they're like arguing about this, Yuzuki herself like shows up and finds them, and she asks Shirase, would you be willing to go on this trip in my place? Because I know you want to go, and I don't want to go because 1, I'm from Hokkaido where it's super cold and I'm sick of it. And 2, like she thinks any high schooler could do this like idol job. She doesn't want to do it. But her mother and manager, Tamiko, shows up and lays down the law because she asks Shirase, like, can you really replace Yuzuki? And like Shirase like tries to do like a report, like a fake report, and she has like terrible stage fright. She can barely say any words.
Terrible.
And then like Hanada's like, oh, don't worry about that. I'll perform. I'll come. And then Tamiko is like, sure, but can you be attractive? Which was this pretty sick burn on Hanada. I think Hanada's pretty attractive. I don't know. But anyway, Tamiko doesn't. So she asks the girls to convince Yuzuki to go in the end because she knows that Yuzuki's really upset, and says that like if they can convince her, she'll recommend that the girls can come along as companions. So Hinata and Shirase have a little bonding moment on the train home when Shirase admits she's like the only been thinking about her own feelings in all of this, she realized. And like Hinata responds like, you're just now realizing that you only care about yourself. And they just have like laugh it off and have like a funny conversation about it. But so after all that, the girls confront Yuzuki, who explains to them that the real reason she really doesn't want to go on this trip to Antarctica is that she's never had any time in her life to make any friends. She's been like a child actress since the age of 4, and she's always been kept so busy that she's had no time for friends. And any friends, quote unquote, that she did make were really only trying to get close to her because she was famous and never stuck around.
Doesn't it show her like texting with like this group as she's like with them and talking about how she doesn't want to go? Like, when can we meet up? Blah, blah, blah. And I think that's more the reason, like you said. Is
yeah, exactly.
She
and they like
she can't ever meet up with anyone if she's going to be gone on this trip. And
But those girls like barely get back to her too. Like they don't really respond. And by the end of the episode, those girls like leave her line group, like because they just don't care about her, essentially.
Yeah.
So like she doesn't have any real friends is the real problem.
Which I found that like kind of unbelievable considering she's kind of an idol. They would still try to be friends with her.
Yeah, I mean, but like, the girls in this episode seemed like the kind of people who were like only like interested in her as because she was famous.
Yeah, like there's a difference between like real friends and like quote unquote friends, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So like Mari hugs her and is like, I understand, and like Yuzuki but yells at her though, like, of course you don't understand, like, look at you guys, you're all obviously best friends. And then the girls like all look at her with blank faces and are like, we literally met each other less than a month ago and never even hung out like once. And she's like, what? And, Mari just tells him, like, no, we all came together because we're just trying to get to the same place. And so, like, Yuzuki thinks about how Mari, like, hugged her, like, later that night as she's trying to go to sleep. And she realizes it's, like, the first time anyone has shown her, like, friendship like that. And she like, thinks to herself, is this what friendship is like? Because she hasn't experienced it before. And she falls asleep. She has this dream where the three girls climb a ladder to get to her window of her hotel room. And then, like, Mari's at the top and, like, extends out her hand to, like, come with us. And, like, she tries to grab her hand, but then, like, a wind gust comes by and it blows the ladder off the window. And, like, as she's, like, falling out the window to try and grab them, she, in real life, falls out of her bed and then wakes up because it was a dream. But it was such a good sequence. I really liked that. And so Yuzuki is a little disappointed because the dream wasn't real and she wanted it to be real. But she hears a knock, and first she thinks it's like people at the window again or something, but it's actually at the door. And it's all the girls. They're there. They decided to come like early in the morning and like keep her company on her trip to her next job in Tokyo. But because of their like kindness and like actual friendship, she just breaks down in tears, starts crying because she's so happy. And she tells her agency like she'll go to Antarctica, but she won't go without these girls. And one thing I didn't mention is at the beginning of the episode, like when Yuzuki is introduced before the OP, she's looking up at like the hot summer sky and she just depressed says like, I could just die right now because it's so hot, and like she just has no friends. But at the end of this episode, the girls all go to this observatory in this polar science museum, and they're looking up at a projection of what the Antarctic aurora looks like. And Mari says, like, we're going to be the only high schoolers in all of Japan who will have gotten to see this. And like Yuzuki looks up at it again and smiles and says, I could just die right now. But it's like completely different because now she has friends and now she's happy. And it's just a really cute moment of symmetry.
Yeah. The imagery in this anime is amazing. Like
it's so really good.
Oh,
it
yeah.
really lets you know like what's going on, like emotionally. I don't know. It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
Yeah, the whole show, even the animation.
Sorry, Leo, you go first.
Yeah, the animation and just even the background art, it's all just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it definitely is like top notch, and like they know exactly what they want to do.
I mean, it's Madhouse too, so come on.
Yeah, they're doing such a good job. But like, speaking of imagery, there's like these various shots of just like cats trying to survive the summer heat in this episode, and they would just be cats like splayed out on the ground, like clearly like overheated outside of like convenience stores and stuff. I just found that really funny every time I saw those. And also, just as a life goal, find someone who looks at you the way that Shirase looks at penguins at that museum. She's like staring through the glass and like kicking her legs. It's just really funny.
Oh, man. Ready to dive into the next episode?
Sure.
All right, episode 4, 4 caterpillars. This early scene had me in tears laughing, and I've seen this scene like 4 times, and every time I got to wipe away tears. I'm laughing so hard.
I was cracking up hysterically the entire time with this fucking scene.
It's so good. So Mari needs her parents' permission, obviously, but has been putting it off until now. She's basically not told her mother anything. So she gets home, and she's getting ready to tell her, but she can tell something's not quite right. Her mother's acting strange in the kitchen as she cooks food. Turns out her mother had already found out, though, and in a cleverly diabolical scene, gets back at her daughter. Everything is so well done. The music, the sound effects, the look on her mom's face when she corners her with the ladle. I can't do this scene justice. People just need to go and watch it for themselves.
The dad is the funniest part of this whole entire thing. Like the
I also
dad,
like how like
she's like, save me or something, and the dad's like, you're on your own, and like shuts the door.
And I love how like the mom's just like pounding the ladle in her fist, and she's like, this could be used as a weapon. And like after like a little bit, like it immediately just jump cuts to Mari back in class. Like it's funny. I just love that whole scene. Like everything about it is so well done.
It was good. It was
so
good.
Yeah. So it turns out Mari ended up making a deal with her mother that she has to pass all her classes and she will be able to go. The girls end up taking a couple days off from school to go do some special training for the expedition. There they meet their captain, Gin Todo. Apparently she went with Shirase's mom to Antarctica, and only she came back. So Shirase kind of holds her responsible, I guess. The girls do a bunch of exercises involving setting up flags and navigation, so they don't get lost and all that nonsense, because you're on giant landscape where it's just white all around you. There's no other landmarks. Later that night, they go to a bed in a tent for more, training. But of course, Mari can't sleep, and just funny hijinks ensue. The girls, start having giggling fits at one point and so on.
Please shut talking now.
The next day, surprisingly, Mari wakes up first and gets out of the tent and sees the sunrise with Gin. She wakes everybody else up, and they all get up and watch it together. Oh boy.
I liked that the episode made it clear that like the expedition takes like seriously, like trying to prepare these girls for this trip. Like, I'm glad that they're getting some actual like real preparation, and they're not just letting these girls come on this trip like, oh, and Antarctica is nothing, So they give them like some real training. And like, I also liked that short scene between Gin and Kanai where Kanai makes it clear that she didn't want Shirase to go on this trip, but like she can only say like she's Takako's daughter after all, and that like just indicates that like Takako has that same stubborn personality, or she did, like Shirase's mother. And they confirm that again at the end of the episode where like Mari is told by Gin that Shirase is just like the spitting image of her mother in terms of like all the troublemaking. And I liked Mari's response to that, like, isn't trouble fun? Which is really cute.
Yeah.
I thought this episode, I thought this episode really showed a lot about Shirase, and she almost has this sort of dichotomy, right, where she's really enjoying being with these other girls, and like the idea that she can just have fun and have a good time, but then also there's a serious undertone of like her mom being missing and all this stuff. It kind of showed both in this episode, I felt like, really well.
Yeah, it was interesting how she was like, she could barely look at Gin because the way she feels about her is like, she went to Antarctica with my mom. She knew my mom since they were in high school, but she came back from Antarctica and my mom didn't. So it's obviously uncomfortable for her around her.
I wonder towards the later episodes if this suddenly is going to get like really dramatic and perilous or something.
It has to at some point. There has to be some exploration of what went on, and it's going to be like serious for a little bit.
Well, you think it'll happen to the girls, or maybe you'll get the backstory of what happened to her mom?
I don't know.
I think we'll find out what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. There's going to be something. I just hope that they continue to balance it well. Like they continue to balance the serious tones with the fun tones like they have so far. And they've done a really good job so far.
I want more scenes like the running scene from episode 2 and the scene from this episode with her mother in the ladle. Give me more scenes like these, and you have me sold on this show as probably a 10 at this point, because I don't know what I can even fault it for at this point now.
Okay, so what makes the show a possible 10, right, is that it's got the fun scenes like really well done, and like these touching scenes that are like really well directed and everything, but it's also got that deeper undercurrent and those deeper like tones to the show. Like that's really what makes a show a 10. Like, because if it's just a happy-go-lucky show, like it's fun, but it's not going to be a 10 no matter how well it's directed.
Like I said, like I can't find a fault with it, but that doesn't mean that makes it a good show, because it could still just be mediocre. But like I feel like everything they're doing, they're nailing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're definitely nailing it.
I don't think you could do too much better, really, without just like just blowing our minds and our brains coming out of our ears.
Speaking of nailing it,
God.
I love this next show. So Wednesdays, you've got the first episode, Leo.
Violet Evergarden, episode 3. Violet enters a school to get better at being an auto memoir doll. At first, she is amazing in everything because she can type super crazy fast and scores top of the class across the board. The trouble starts when the class has to pair up and write the other person's feelings into the letters. Here, she utterly fails. We saw this coming, and it causes her to not actually even graduate in the end. In the class, she befriends a pretty redhead named Hukulia.
Not just pretty, like best girl level. Oh my god, Luculia is so gorgeous. Like, holy crap, KyoAni.
Oh god. So Luculia,
I was losing my mind.
Yeah, she's extremely beautiful in this show. And most girls in this show are. I don't think I'd... Have we seen an ugly one yet? Maybe an old one.
I don't know.
But even the old ones, you're like, they were probably damn good looking when they were. I mean,
the
20
guys
years
are
younger.
good looking too. Like,
Kat, you got to weigh in. How are the guys? Good looking or not?
Hey, they're pretty. Everything in this show is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah.
So, Luculia has problems of her own at home. Her parents died during a bombing of the war, and her brother feels like it was his fault that he didn't protect them since he was a soldier and whatnot. Now he just spends his days hobbling around on his crutch and being a big old drunk and getting fights and all that fun stuff. Luculia feels sorry for Violet not graduating, and they have a one-on-one session where she tries to help her. Things get turned around when Luculia starts talking about her brother and what happened. She basically lets her heart out to Violet about how she loves her brother and just wants him to get out of his depression, and it just being the two of them is enough for her. Violet, shortly afterwards, is inspired by Luculia's words and writes a letter full of emotions from Luculia to her brother. Violet finds her brother beaten up and drunk and gives him the letter. It's actually just 2 lines.
Yeah, full of emotions. Sorry.
Yeah. It says, well, it is, I mean, kind of. Dear brother, I'm glad you're here for me. Thank you for everything. I mean,
really
that's not
all
too
she
bad.
needed to say.
Yeah. This inspires Luculia's brother to sober up, and when given to her previous instructor, allows her to get a pin from the school and graduate. There's also this weird thing where Benedict and Catalea nag at each other like elementary school kids in love.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely something going on between them. For sure.
They just haven't explained it yet. Like at one moment, they're like sitting, having tea together, and just having a nonchalant conversation. And then like Violet's like, I thought you guys were fighting. And they immediately start fighting again. It's like, are you guys, is this a ruse or what's going on? I don't understand. And Bcom, your only comments about this episode is best girls everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that entire classroom of auto memoir dolls in training was just like, every character design in that classroom was ridiculous.
It just feels like this whole anime is just like KyoAni being like, hey, let us make your anime. Look how beautiful we can make anime.
Pretty much.
It will make the prettiest humans ever.
I don't remember what her brother, Luculia's brother's name is, but I thought his story was interesting because, you know, he's a veteran of this war who has suffered a lot and like has been driven to like depression and alcohol. But it shows that, like, you know, you can come home, like there will be people that do care about you and will take care of you. So it was like, I just liked the message of this episode. I liked the short letter that is like, all that really needed to be said is that I'm glad you're here for me. And then thank you for what you've done. It was a sweet message for this one.
It was.
So yeah, episode 4. This one's focused on Iris, who gets her first personal request for a letter writing, which is going to take her to her hometown of Kazali. And she's accompanied there by Violet because at the beginning of this episode, Iris is like really excited, but she like falls down some stairs and Violet catches her, but she ends up like spraining her wrist basically, so she won't be able to type a letter. And so Violet will come with her. When they step off the train in her hometown, like Iris's like first step just puts her like cute shoes like right in this muddy puddle, and she's just like, oh, I hate home, basically. They're greeted by her whole family who arrive on this wagon, and she's not truthful with them at all. And Violet is just calling her out on every little lie she tells, like, that's not true, that has no truth to it, blah, blah, blah. And they eventually introduced Violet, though, to the family, and she introduces herself with this, like, curtsy that has to be the best animated curtsy in anime history. It's like so ridiculously well animated. It's clearly kind of like a scene that might have been made for trailers more than anything, but it kind of like interrupts the whole flow of the show as she introduces herself.
Possibly.
It turns out that Iris's mom was the one who requested the ghostwriting. So that's why Iris is there. So she's kind of pissed because she's come all this way and it was just her mom. And the real ruse is like her mom wants to throw a birthday party for Iris. But she looks at the invitation list to the birthday party, and it's a lot of guys, like a lot of single guys. And so she figures out,
guys.
Yeah, her mom's trying to set her up basically. And like she gets into an argument with her parents, who are like, we know that you're not this popular doll like you say you are in the big city. Like, just come home and get married and forget about all that stuff. So she's really pissed at her parents for tricking her like this. But privately, she asks Violet to take one name off the list of invitations. This guy named Emon Snow. But like, Violet's like, well, it's your parents' like request. I can't do that. But she's like, please do this for me. But regardless, Iris's mom goes around her back and makes sure that he gets an invitation. So like at the party, like Iris just like sort of breaks down in tears when she sees him and like runs away and is like pissed at her mom. And it turns out that like Emon rejected her in the past, and that's why she's so upset and why she didn't want to see him. And like the parents ask Violet like how Iris is doing, and she basically is very direct, as she always is. She's like, she's crying. And then she explains why. And like Iris gets even more upset about that when she finds out that Violet told her parents about like what happened with Emon. And she like yells at Violet for just not understanding people. And Violet like sincerely apologizes because she knows like she's got these shortcomings and she can't understand people, and she's trying as hard as she can. And Iris's mother like leaves them alone to talk. And like, you know, Iris tells Violet, you know, when I graduated from school, I told Emon, like, I love you, the words that Violet's trying to figure out, aishiteru, what they actually mean. And Emon rejected her because he only saw her as a friend, basically. And Violet's like, you know, it seems like I love you takes a lot of courage to say, enough that you want to run away when it's not reciprocated. And she explains like that she became a doll to understand like the major's I love you. And so after all this, Iris has calmed down. She asks Violet to write apology letters to all the guests. And Violet suggests like, hey, what if you were to like draft a letter to your parents telling them how you really feel? And so she does that, and she tells them like, I just need some more time to pursue this path that I'm taking. And I promise you I'll become this big star auto memoir doll, this really famous thing that I set out to be. And so as she's leaving town, her parents see her off, and she steps in a muddy puddle again at the station. But like this time, like same kind of symmetry with Place Further Than the Universe. She smiles as she's leaving, thinking that it's not so bad. And her father like gives her a bouquet of irises as she leaves. And on the train, Violet and Iris are like looking at this field of irises go by. And Iris tells her like, yeah, when I was born, like all of these flowers were in full bloom, so that's why they called me Iris. And that triggers Violet to remember that the major, when he found her, named her because she didn't know her name, or she didn't have a name. And like the first thing he saw was a violet in the field, so they were basically named in a similar way. And like the major told her, you won't be a tool, but a person worthy of that name one day. So just a little bit more backstory on where Violet comes from.
Yeah, my major undertaking between this episode and the last episode was more like Violet was here for the other characters to help them progress in their own way. And she might have progressed herself slightly. I mean, we did learn how she got her name.
Right.
But like the last two episodes, she was totally there for Luculia, and she was totally here this time for Iris. 100%.
Definitely. And so like through their stories, we learn a little bit more about Violet each time. And Violet gets a little bit better at understanding people and moves like a little closer to her goal. So while it's like a lot of people are calling this show like really slow and boring, and I understand where they're coming from, but it's like, yeah, they're building to something. Obviously, they're setting a lot of this stuff up as they go forward. And there's going to be 14 episodes of the show anyway, so it's a lot of time between now and then.
14 is a weird episode number.
It is, yeah.
Anybody else got anything else they want to add?
No.
Nope.
Okay. So we can move on to Thursdays and After the Rain. So this episode was extremely good. Episode 3 called Raining Tears. So the older guy, Masami, he didn't quite get the message last episode when Akira like took him out to a cafe and told him that she liked him. She thought he was joking, or he thought she was joking. And like, so leaving school the next day, though, Akira runs into a friend from the track team who looks exactly like Mickey from Devilman Crybaby. I don't think I'm the only one to be like noticing that. Like, they look exactly the same, and they're both on a track team in their animes, so it's funny. She asks her to come watch track practice, but it ends up being way too emotional for Akira to watch like her friends and like teammates continue to run track. So she leaves, and they ask if they can go hang out at her family restaurant that she works out after practice, but she's like, no, don't come. But she realizes that was like too blunt, and she says like, because it's too far, and she adds that. But she clearly wants to have like a boundary there with her like school life and her life at the restaurant.
See, I don't think that's what it is. I think it's like that thing where you can no longer hang out with the group you've been hanging out with, right? And it like hurts too much.
That's true. Yeah.
Be there just to be there, and so
yeah,
she's
for
like
sure.
trying to distance herself from them. So
yeah, and there's this really interesting montage of scenes just after that where she's walking, she gets on the train, it's like pouring rain, and then like she's walking to work through the pouring rain very slowly, and she's thinking back to the moment that she injured herself in track practice, and like we see her like tearing her Achilles and like falling forward in first person, and then we see her in the hospital with her mom like crying as the doctor delivers the news that she can't run, and like we see her like recovering in a wheelchair and stilts, and all of this is accompanied by like this pouring rain sounds in the background. And this eventually all leads to this one scene where Masami at the restaurant gives her just like a cup of coffee. And that's the first like real act of kindness, I guess, she experienced after all this horrible stuff happened to her. And just like on a personal note, this actually reminded me a lot of, I tore my rotator cuff tendon as a pitcher in high school. And so parts of this like sequence were tough for me to watch because it felt too real. Because like going to like the doctor and learning that I couldn't pitch anymore, and like having my parents there be like crying because they had like brought me to Little League and like all baseball games from like when I was a little kid all the way up through high school for years and years and years. Oh, and so really? It was like the same exact thing. It was the same exact
really
thing.
Relatable. That's neat.
Well, and it's like at that point, not only have you lost your ability to do this thing, right, but you've also lost your group, which is also almost worse.
It is bad. It's like, yeah, some of the kids who I was on that baseball team with, like, I had known since I was like 5 and played baseball with them almost that long. Like, so yeah, you lose that group that you've been like building with for years and years and years. And I don't know if it's the same for Akira with these girls in her high school, but it could have been. And
I think she feels like she's alienated a little bit.
Yeah,
and like Kat says, it like physically hurts to be around that group when you can't do what they are doing anymore. You can't help them. It sucks.
Yeah, it's like you're a like onlooker instead of a participant now. Like you're no longer part of the group. You're a guest, and it's almost terrible just to even be there. So
I mean,
yeah, they had her like sitting at like a school desk on the side of the field, and she really felt like separated, like visibly separated from everything else that was going on.
Yeah, so generally your friends are people you have a common interest with, and if you take away that common interest, then you kind of find out you and your friend are just strangers, really. You guys don't relate to each other anymore, and I think that kind of can be applied to sports in Bcom's and Akira's case here.
So meanwhile, Masami is like working in the staff room, and he looks out the window and he sees that it's raining, but he sees Akira like slowly walk up the street and walk over to him, and he's like telling her like, hey, get inside, it's raining. And like the sound of the rain just like crescendos in the mix of the music, and she comes up to the window and she just says, I like you, like straight out. There's no way to misinterpret this time. And all the sound cuts out and she walks away, and then the sound cuts back as like the ash falls from his cigarette. He's just like stunned standing at the door, and the sound comes like rushing back, and then he's like, it cuts to him driving home from work that day. And there's like this beautifully animated scene of it's like pouring rain on his windshield. And so like the water is collecting and it's like getting wiped away by the wipers. But in that like mirage of the water on his windshield, he sees like Akira walking away from him, like having said what she just said. And he's still like trying to process all this. And when he comes back to work the next day, he looks at the sign in the front of the restaurant that says like under 18 eat for like 930 yen at his family restaurant, and just like stares at the under 18 part of that, and takes like a good long look.
It's like, yep.
So he's very conflicted. But it's weird because Akira acts like nothing really happened for a little bit the next day, and he thinks to himself, like, was this some prank by the staff that they're playing on me? He's still kind of oblivious. He can't bring himself to believe that, like, a 17-year-old would like an old guy like him. And however, though, when they are in the break room alone later, Akira, like, comes up to him, and he still thinks that he's, like, she's playing a prank on him or something, but she starts talking and tells him, like, I meant what I said, and I would like to hear your answer. And like they get interrupted by like the cute girl like asking, do you want to go to karaoke with me, Akira? And like she like tells her no, like like really angrily. And eventually Masami just ends up giving her a lift to the train station in his car, and he responds, he tells her, I can't give you an answer, like I'm 45, you need to consider what others will think. And she's just like stubborn. She says, I don't think it matters. And he's like, I assure you it does matter. Since our ages are so different, I could be your father. And people might think it's like compensated dating or something like that. And she gets angry and tells him like, it's not like that. It's not like that. And he like screeches the car to a halt. And he's so nervous. He takes a sip out of this Studio Wit coffee cup or can. And he forgot that he put his like cigarette ashes out in it. So he spits it all over himself. It's pretty funny. But yeah, it finally stops raining, and so they get out of the car and like take a walk to like cool off into this park. And he asks her a very important question, in my opinion, like, why do you even like me? And she responds, must there be a reason to like someone? And Masami's like, yeah, you need a reason, because if I was your age, you might not, but because of how old I am, because of the age difference, I need a reason. And she just still has nothing for him except I like you. That's all she can say. And Masami like thinks about it, and he remembers like back to the last time a 17-year-old girl said she liked him. And it was when he was like that age himself. And he's just thinking about it, but he tells Akira, just, you should reconsider, because I'm 45, I have no hopes or dreams, and I'm an empty middle-aged boy. And Akira like giggles at him because he called himself a boy, because he's thinking about when he was a boy. But then right at the end, he says, like jokingly, he says, like just try going on a date with me. You'll be creeped out. And she takes that as an invitation to actually go on one with him. So that's where the episode ends. But yeah, I thought this episode was like one of the most beautifully animated episodes of anime I've maybe ever seen. Like it's just so well done at every stage of it. Like regardless of like the crazy age gap and like the content of the show, like Wit is doing such a good job of presenting it.
That's a lot coming from you being a KyoAni fanboy.
Like, yeah, I mean, there are parts of this show that look better than Violet Evergarden, and like I did not think I would find myself saying that before this season. Like, it's ridiculous.
Wow. Do you still have a three-way tie between Evergarden, After the Rain, and A Place Further Than the Universe in terms of animation?
I mean, there's like, just based on consistency, I would say that After the Rain and Violet Evergarden are a little bit above A Place Further Than the Universe, though it's pretty close. But I don't know.
I like
all of them.
Yeah, basically what margin of difference there is, it's like so small you almost have to excuse it.
Like some of the stuff like KyoAni is doing is just like unnecessarily great animation for even the smallest little thing. But yeah, I really like the styles of all three shows. They're all great.
Cool. Kat, you want to add anything to this? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it feels like, so this episode and the next episode are almost meant to sort of show the different, it's almost like a discussion on the different way, like reasons why like these age gap relationships happen. And like the dynamics in them. So like in the case of this couple, obviously this guy is sort of like feeling young through her, Like the reason
Right.
he likes being with her is because it makes him feel young again. And he's like at this moment in his life where he feels really like dragged down, I guess, and old. And so it makes him feel light to be with her.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't think about that until you said that now, but you seem pretty right about that.
definitely.
Yeah.
Especially
And I
with what
mean-
happens in the next episode. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he's trying to understand some about her, and he's not ignoring her totally, but there's definitely like, I don't know if he really understands a lot about her as a person as much as he's just enjoying being around her. And he's not really objectifying her or anything, but
Right.
No,
like, he's definitely kind of
he
using
definitely
her.
doesn't get her because he just cannot understand why she would ever like him. I think it's
Yeah.
making him kind of reevaluate himself a little bit.
Yeah,
And at first I was upset that she didn't have a good reason for why she liked him. But then I kind of started to appreciate the fact that they are presenting her as a kid, as like a kid that doesn't know why she feels the way she feels. Like she is like a 17-year-old kid. And it's important to remember that. That is part of why this relationship is so problematic, because of like the power dynamic of him being her boss and then being so much older. Like it's important to remember that like she's a little confused and like he needs to be careful with that.
Yeah.
She
And
needs to be careful
It's,
too.
like I said, it's not like he's objectifying her. Like the next episode, there's another guy who does. It's just that he's using her to create a certain atmosphere and to feel a certain way. And I don't think he is doing it on purpose. Like, I don't care about her. But in the end, I don't see that he is really seeing her the way she is and like considering her. You know what I mean?
Right.
Either. So I think that these two episodes are supposed to show like the different, and it actually does show the dynamics of like an age gap relationship fairly well. It's
Yeah,
pretty
I think
honest
so.
about the different things in it and like the different types of relationships that can be. So it's interesting for sure.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Episode 4, Gentle Rain. Ryosuke Kase, the kitchen chef, shows us this episode how much of a fucking sleazeball he can be.
Yeah.
It's a shame too because he's a hot guy, right? Like
I thought he was cool at
Yeah.
first.
he seemed like he was.
Apparently not.
Nope.
Nope. So after he finds a doodle in one of Akira's school workbooks, he blackmails her to go on a date with him.
Yeah, she had doodled like a picture of Kondo, like the
Yeah.
yeah.
A little heart above his head and like an umbrella or something like that. He chooses a movie that is scary and gory in hopes that she will cling to him. This does not happen. He then forcibly touches a couple of times in different situations, scenarios, and tells her it will never work out with Kondo. So yeah, don't forcibly touch women. That is... has anybody been listening to the news lately? I mean, good God.
Yeah.
Well, see,
Ugh.
like I said, this is so he sees her as a sexual, just like he is just blatantly objectifying her, right? Like the whole
yeah.
reason that he wants to go out with her is because he thinks she's hot and he knows that she's a high school girl, and he has this like weird fetish, as a lot of guys do, about high school girls. Like I think when they meet up, he even is like, "Oh, you're not in your school uniform." And he's
Yeah,
like,
he was let
disappointed.
down.
Yeah, he
She
was
went home and
disappointed, yeah.
changed.
Yeah, and, I mean, you can just tell he's just like turned on by the idea that he's gonna like, you know, get some action with this hot high school girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all it is,
Yeah.
and
So
that's like
anyways.
some. Yeah, go ahead.
Just such a sleazeball he was, which it honestly just blindsided me. I was like, I did not see him painted this way until this episode.
Yeah.
And like even
Yeah.
early on, like he's just like looking at her, and I'm like, yeah, any guy would probably still look, but it's when you take fucking actions when you have a definite bad problem. But Akira goes on her date with Kondo, and they go to the same movie. After the movie, Kondo says it's probably time to go home, but Tachibana convinces him to get drinks at the same place as her date with Ryosuke, which is funny because she wanted to go home with her date with Kase, and he mentioned having drinks. So it's like a total switch here.
Yeah.
It makes Kondo recall his first date, and it's kind of whatever. Then afterwards, there's an awesome scene with like Tachibana leaning on a rail and the wind blowing in her hair and the beautiful background, all that fun stuff. But not only is Kondo worried about what other people will think of the two, but he's also worried about the heartbreak, and he still remembers how it felt from his divorce. So,
yeah, he doesn't want to be hurt either as part of it. Yeah.
You liked a couple of very specific scenes in here, Bcom.
Yeah, like, so during the Kase half of the episode, the first half, like, there's this one scene where she gets a phone call from Kondo, and she, like, runs away to, like, go listen to it, and it's basically just him asking, like, where do you want to go on a date, and she's just like, I want to go somewhere you would want to go, and he's like, oh, crap. Gotta figure this out. But she hangs up, and then they do this really cutely animated thing where she, like, she, like, scrunches her toes up and down, then she, like, sort of, like, starts skipping up and down, like, so happy. You know, it's just really a good way to show, like, how people feel when, like, something goes right with their crush kind of thing. But, like, as much as I hate Kase, I think he played one important role, which is, like, being really blunt about analyzing Akira's feelings for Kondo, because he basically just tells her, like, so you got hurt and had to quit your track team, and now you're replacing your love for track with this older guy, and that's what you're doing. And she gets super pissed at him when he says this, and I think it hit home a little bit. Yeah. And I think it's because she realizes it's partly true. So yeah.
I think I accidentally left out the part where when she's on the date with Kase, where he forces a kiss on her cheek.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was just like, God, dude, you just
leave her the fuck alone. Like, if she doesn't want to, I don't know.
Yeah, she's not interested. What's the point in forcing anything on? I mean, I guess he feels convinced that he can convince her somehow.
It's almost like he's thinking, well, if you're gonna like a older dude, like, just like me instead, and then I can reap the benefits of that.
Oh God.
And I liked Masami's line at the end of the episode where he's thinking to himself about, like, when he's looking at Akira on that bridge scene where she looks gorgeous, but he thinks to himself that when he looks at her, he actually just kind of feels sad because he sees her, like, youthfulness and innocence, and then thinks about how he can't stand that he's no longer young like that anymore. So I liked getting that inner dialogue from him to understand, like, where he's coming from on this. And also just, like, how he got really embarrassed in the tea room when, like, he's surrounded by all these teenage couples or, like, college-age couples, however old they are. And he just gets super uncomfortable and feels like, I have to leave. This is, like, wrong. So he's really conflicted about how he feels about Akira. And I think that's important for the show to, to show us at this point. Because, like, otherwise it would just be kind of creepy. But it's not, because we understand these people.
Yep. So you guys want to get out of this drama-filled world and go to another world where it's just nothing but fun camping?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
The very happy place. Yeah. Before I start this, I just want to bring up, where does Rin get the money for her camping supplies? Camping supplies really are not the cheapest things in the world.
They make a big point of that in the show, too.
Like, she has a lot of gear, and I'm just...
Well, she's also been doing this for a longer time, right? So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, but now she's got a scooter. I don't know if that's
she does work, right? She
works
works at a bookstore, so she makes some money, I guess. But
that's right. She does work at a bookstore. I guess if you just save all your... I'm so used to having bills now. I don't have to start to wrap my brain around it.
Yeah.
So, episode 3, Mount Fuji and Relaxed Hot Pot Camp. The episode that convinces me that maybe I should try giving camping another shot.
This anime makes me think about camping again. I used to, and now I'm just like, maybe I should do it again.
Yeah, during the impressions, I told Bcom it's not the greatest thing in the world. You know, it's just everything's an inconvenience. The cooking, going to the bathroom, sleeping, you know, compared to normal home life. And then, like I told him, there was that one thing during episode 1 where, like, she didn't want to light a fire because she didn't want to smell like smoke. And, like, the next day, everything about you smells like smoke. It is embedded in your skin, and it's almost
the worst.
It's almost disgusting.
Your hair holds smoke smell much longer than any other part of you. Like, even your clothes. You can shampoo your hair like 3 times, still smells slightly of smoke.
And it won't bother you until you wake up the next day, and then you're just like, oh, it's like it changes somehow. But yeah, back to the episode. We begin with Nadeshiko going through their shed and trying to find a tent, which then collapses on her. It's pretty funny. She does get a text message from Ren's friend telling her where Ren is camping. Nadeshiko gets a ride from her older sister, and after searching the campgrounds for a bit, she finally finds her and announces that they make hot pot. Meanwhile, Chiaki gets a job at a liquor store, which I was concerned about. And Ao gets a job someplace else, which later on I think you kind of figure out was like a supermarket or something. But I'm pretty... Just to have a liquor license to sell as like a waiter, you have to be 18.
Oh, really?
Here.
Huh. I didn't know
Yeah. So like, and she's high schooler, so she's at the most 16. And yeah, it was just weird. But basically they got these jobs to get to fund the club. So Nadeshiko makes mildly hot, quotes, hot pot that Ren enjoys quite a bit. Also, Nadeshiko has a bottomless pit for her stomach because she eats the whole thing. It's kind of funny. Like it's not like terrible hot, but it's hot enough that they have to take off a couple layers of clothes.
Yeah.
Like a jacket or two. It's pretty funny. And then we get our camping lesson this episode, which was how to use stick-on warmers. Apparently you can like put them on your lower back, your neck, what was like your chest.
Yeah, those things look
places.
cool. Like I used to use hand warmers and like toe warmers when I was skiing in the past, but like they're like put these at places with like big veins or thick veins or something. I was like, oh, that sounds like pseudoscience-y, but maybe it works. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyways, Ren goes to bed in her tent, and Nadeshiko's sister returns, and they both sleep in the car, and it made my back immediately hurt watching this scene because I've slept in cars before. It's never a good experience. In the morning, Sakura, Nadeshiki's sister, leaves to get breakfast, and Nadeshiki wanders to Ren's tent. After saying the sunrise is too bright, they all crawl into the tent and go to sleep. Ren prefers camping during the winter because there's no bugs, you don't sweat, and she guesses soup tastes better. And, you know, those are pretty darn good points.
It is.
Yeah.
I hate I mean, camping in the summer. I don't know why the fuck people do it. It's terrible.
Yeah, you have everybody better come with their own can off, and you still got to share every time.
Everyone smells if you camp in the summer.
Can't help it.
It's just, it happens. So.
We are not doing a very good job of selling camping.
It's okay. The show's doing it for the people who are oblivious.
Yeah, but they're like the big difference being here. They're doing like a fall/winter camping when Kat and I are talking about, you know, like a summer camping where it's usually pretty awful. Hundreds of not bed bug bites, but mosquito bites the next day.
We also live in Indiana, so that's also an issue. But anyway.
She also seems to be enjoying camping with Nadeshiko more than she's letting on. So
yeah, for sure. She's definitely having fun with it. Also, Nadeshiko's sister, Sakura, is like awesome. Like she drove her little sister all the way out to this place and then like slept there overnight with her just so she could like spend a day with her friend, which was pretty cute.
I'm convinced
I would never do this for my little brother.
Yeah, her sister must have been really worried about her like moving to this new area and is just really trying to help her make friends. Because otherwise, like, I don't know if she'd go to all this trouble to help her out so much. So I think she was really quite worried about her. So it's good that she's such a good sister. Because otherwise, I don't know how the heck this would have happened.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, very true.
All right, so we'll get into episode 4, the Outdoor Activities Club and the Solo Camping Girl. So... the 3 members of the Outdoor Camping Club, they plan their first camping trip, and they have most of the gear that they need, except for sleeping bags. And as they're like looking through this sleeping bag catalog, they have this like funny homage to, they see like these human sleeping bags that you can walk around in. And Nadeshiko's like, oh, what if we like played like Journey to the Moon with that or something? She just pictures in her mind this like homage to Georges Méliès's like 1902 French film A Trip to the Moon, where like a big can like lands on the eye of the moon, and they have like a little homage to that. It was kind of cute. They just imagine jumping around on the moon in their little sleeping bags. But unfortunately, they only have one sleeping bag right now, and it's a summer bag, so it's not going to be warm enough for the time of year that they're in. And they are like, but maybe we could insulate it with something. So they try like various stuff. Yeah, that they
Jesus
find around
Christ.
school. Like they try like wrapping her in like aluminum foil and then bubble wrap and then cardboard, which I don't know, works for some people who
I
are
just
like
kept
sleeping on the
thinking,
streets.
These people are gonna be like, they're gonna be like mistaken as weird like alien conspiracy people because they're just wrapping like weird shit all around each other. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure some of their teachers are like, okay, what do you need this stuff for? But yeah, after like they wrap Chiaki all up in all this stuff, she's like, but wait, how do I move now? And so they eventually just decide, okay, let's just buy new sleeping bags from onamazu.co.gp, which is their fake Amazon name, which I liked. And so, yeah, the girls from the club head off to their trip by train, and their destination is Kofu, Japan, which is like a few hours train ride west of Tokyo, basically. And there's some humor on the way, like when they get off their train, they still have to walk a few kilometers to this campsite. And Nadeshiko is like a little ball of energy, so she's just like running with the stuff on her back, and Chiaki and Aoi are just like dying as they're dragging all their camp stuff behind them.
I loved that scene, dude. I thought it was hilarious.
It was really funny. I was like wondering, why did they not take a bus or something? But it makes sense further in the episode. But meanwhile, Rin is on a scooter going on a completely different trip to a camping area in Nagano, which is further northwest. And on her way, she pulls up behind this truck, and there's like a dog in the back window of the truck. And the dog and her have like this staring contest. They go from like light to light in this town, and the dog keeps looking at her. And then like the truck's finally going to turn, so she gets a little sad because like she's going to lose her dog friend. But then as that truck turns off, she pulls up behind another truck, and there's like an entire family of dogs in the back of this truck. They're all looking at her. It's just funny gag. But yes, since the camping girls are like exhausted, the other girls, they stop at this cafe and get re-energized by like ice cream and fruit parfaits. So basically all of this is like showing you like, oh, if you get off at this train station, like literal Japanese people telling them like, you can walk to this like ice cream place, this cafe. And then after that, they go to like an onsen and they like warm up there. And meanwhile, Rin is doing the same thing. Like, she sees that they're having fun at that cafe, so she decides to stop at her own place, and she gets like borscht and like a macchiato and something like that. It's just really funny. And like while the other girls are at the onsen, they get a text with a link to this live camera, and they're like, what is this? And it's like, you see in the bottom left corner that Rin is just like waving at the camera. She knew it was there, so she's like sending them a message saying like, hey, look where I am. But like they get so excited about her sending the link that they forget to like respond to her text. And so Rin's just like standing there like, I wonder how long I have to wave at this camera. Like maybe the rest of my life. I don't know. So that's how the episode ends, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm really glad we got to see more of the other girls because we hadn't gotten too much with them yet.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
We just knew they got jobs last episode. That was it.
Yeah, they came into their own a little bit more this episode. And I really like Chiaki. She's like a goofball. And Aoi is just like your typical, I don't know, like I'm just here to have fun kind of girl. I don't know. She's cute too.
Yep.
Kat, what do you think?
I mean, it's just an adorable anime. It's just like it's one of those things you put on and you don't have to worry too much about the plot, and it just makes you feel happy. It's just cute and fuzzy, and like it's not serious. You know, it's not one of those things you need to debate forever. It's just adorable.
No.
Yeah. I mean, our best debate was, is camping worth it? All right. You guys ready for my Friday night rock block? Because I somehow snatched all of Friday for myself.
Yep.
Good for you. Time for you to do a lot of talking.
Yep. Because both my locks turned to be out Friday, and we are reviewing nothing else on Friday.
Good for you.
Cool. We'll start with Hakata Tonkotsu Ramens. Just some of your friendly neighborhood hitmen killing each other.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 3, Teamwork. Saito gets framed for murder and hires the Babylon Bar guys to get the people who did this to him back. Ling starts off by attacking the mob that killed his sister and makes it all the way to the boss, but gets stopped by one of the hitmen working for the mayor. In the end, Ling uses a knife that can shoot bullets into the guy's forehead.
That was
guy is
awesome,
also
by
like,
the way.
he stabs that like the hitman in like the forearm with a knife, and the guy's just like, "Oh, knives have no effect on
Which
me."
I'm like, I call
what?
bullshit on that. Like, knives affect everyone equally. Thank you very much.
But it was just funny. I was like, how?
So what's really funny about this specific spot, she stabbed him, is...
he stabbed him.
He stabbed him. Jeez. I don't know. What do they like to be referred as? Has he said?
He's a guy dressed as a girl.
He gets angry when people mistake him as a girl, so you gotta call him...
Yeah, he gets super angry when that happens.
So anyway, he stabs him in his forearm, which if he actually would gone deep enough and gotten to the other side, that actually would have hit the exact muscles to allow him to even clinch him.
Right.
But yeah, but him just like saying like knives don't work on me, so then he gets shot with a bullet knife. I'm just like, okay. But if it hadn't worked, Bamba was there the whole time and was going to step in if necessary. So they leave. The mob boss reviews the camera footage, and the mayor's other two hitmen go after Ling and Bamba. Bamba and Ling hatch a plan to use Ling as the next girl the mayor's son tortures and rapes. They enlist a hacker by the name of Inokita to obtain this information from a cell phone that Ling got from, I think, the crime scene or something like that. Inokita later gets cornered by the mayor's bodyguards and is forced to give them the plan that Bamba and Ling came up with.
Well,
and the funny thing is, yeah, he doesn't seem bothered by it. And, you know, any other, like, crime, hitman, gangster drama, they would have killed the hacker, right? Because he could have relayed the information back, was my first thought as soon as I saw this.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So, of course, when Bamba and Ling execute the plan, Ling finds himself surrounded by the mob boss and his goons. And this episode, we also, in just like a side scene, we found out Bamba is the Niwakawa samurai, and that mob boss.
We kind of figured it out.
We were guessing it, and the show just flat out said yes, he was. He was basically the mob boss wants to hire him to kill Bamba.
Himself? Basically.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah, they basically like reveal it next episode, but like he styles his hair the exact same way at the end of this episode. Like it's so obvious that it's him. Yeah.
I'm kind of glad they didn't drag it out anymore, because I feel like everyone knew already, and to like keep the suspense, like, oh, it would have been dumb. So I'm glad that they just...
I feel like when he was just even first introduced, everybody became suspicious immediately. So I don't really think the show was trying to make a big deal of hiding it.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, because it wasn't like trying to make suspense where suspense wasn't.
It almost went too much in that direction for me, where I was like, there's so many hints at this point. Like usually when the show gives you this many hints in one direction, it's trying to misdirect you. But like, no, he's just the samurai dude. Like it's fine. I also thought it was weird, like that one guy was recruited into this Murder Inc. company because he was a pitcher who went to like the Koshien tournament, and he like threw a beanball at this guy's head and then like almost killed him. And then they were like, we're going to recruit you because of that. And I was like,
I think
what?
it's because he didn't have a lot of emotional reaction to it. I think that's why. I think what they're trying to say is that maybe he's like kind of a psychopath.
Oh, and then maybe they can use it, like he'll snap at some point and he'll become
perfect
assassin.
Like he won't have as much emotion when he kills people. That was my thought, but maybe
I feel like it really bothered him, because he said at the time he thought he had killed the guy, and like
he said like he couldn't throw a ball after that also, but then
like,
he does in the next
emotional
episode.
Distress.
Like he doesn't outwardly show it though, right? Like the way he shows distress is different.
Huh,
so I think maybe they think he'll handle it well, like when he's killing. I don't know. That was my thought. Then.
Yeah, could be.
So, episode 4, 9th inning, 2 outs. In baseball terms, what's that mean, Bcom?
It means you got 1 out to go before you win the game, basically, or lose the game, depending on if you're the offense.
I thought there were only 7 innings, though. Am I wrong?
Oh, that's for like high school. Has usually 7 innings, but pro baseball is 9.
Okay.
Yep. Ling thinks he's done for when the mob boss reveals that he has hired the Niwaka samurai, and in he comes with the head of Bamba. Ling thinks this is the end, but of course we know who the Niwaka samurai really is, and he takes off the mob boss's head. He then proceeds to kill all his goons and take out 2 of the mayor's bodyguards. He kills the one who likes explosives by sheathing his sword and using the scabbard like a bat to hit the C4 back at him.
That was so ridiculous. Let's be honest.
Hey, he's on a baseball team, dude. We find this out at the end of the episode. I'll get to that later. He knows how to hit. He also kills the leader eye patch guy by just like slicing him like up through his heart and shoulder.
Kind of felt bad for that guy a little bit. I don't know why. I feel like he was just doing his job, and like he came up against this like unkillable Banba. Like
this is like his second fuck over by him because he already took his eye the first time.
Like he's not a good guy, so I don't feel that bad for him. But you know.
Well,
nobody in the show is a good guy.
That's like the
yeah, it's true. Nobody in the
parts.
show is really a good guy necessarily. So
yeah, so it turns out Kida, the hacker, let Bamba know what had happened and didn't actually sell them out. He also Bamba also had the tracker on Ling, so he knew where he was all the whole time. Sato, who hired Jiro to help avenge him, finds out that his case and Bamba's case are connected and decide to work together. Kida was nice enough to attach a tracking device to the female mayor's bodyguard, Reiko, at one point when he was confronted in the last episode. She's currently protecting the mayor's son, and the team tracks him to the penthouse they're staying at. Bamba calls Reiko and lets her know that her teammates are dead and that the Niwaka samurai is on his way to kill her. So, like, with any shred of sanity, she's like, screw this shit, I'm out, and goes to leave.
Reiko's like, I've been taking your shit, and I don't appreciate you, and like, I'm just done now. Like,
yeah, but she's greeted at the door by Saito and Jiro, who knocks her out with a punch to her stomach. Ling has a standoff with the mayor's son, but Sato kind of freaks out and beams the mayor's son with a baseball off of a shelf. So, ooh, he can throw again.
Because the mayor, like, the son was like holding a gun to Ling's head, and it didn't look like he was going to be able to fire, but he was kind of getting up to that point. Mm-hmm. And Saito stopped him.
Yeah. They then record the mayor's son confessing to his crimes and broadcast it all across the city. Ling beats his face to a bloody pulp, and at some point they kill him because they show his grave later on. And they set Reiko up as the person who did it, and of course the mayor's reputation went total shit and after that. And then, after all this, they all get together and play a baseball game against another team. And there is a huge problem here. And Bcom brought it up.
I felt so bad for Ling. They're like, oh, just do your best. And Ling's like, what the fuck is this even? Like,
so,
he's like, what is baseball even, though?
If someone tried to make me play baseball, like, this is what would happen.
Let alone put you at shortstop. Holy crap.
Shortstop is one of the most important positions. Like, besides like the pitcher and the catcher, it's like the most important and difficult position on the entire field. And they're just like, just go to shortstop. You'll be fine. Just
wing it.
Throw it to first base. And
you would put the 65-year-old man there first, who has years of experience before a young kid who's never played before, because he knows what to do. Experience is extremely important in that position. You would never ever stick anybody at shortstop that have no idea how to play this game. Ever. It's unheard of.
I love Ling so much as a character. I just adore him.
He's pretty great. Yeah. The one thing I noticed this episode, though, is there's that part where Ling reopens the wound from like a knife that went into his side, and he can't walk, and Bamba's like, you want me to give you a piggyback ride? And they like walk home, and it's this very romantic piggyback ride, in my opinion. Yes. I was like, this is for the Fujos out there.
The Ling Banba ship. Okay. I want to see this be a real thing.
It looks like it almost could be a real thing. Like, I was pretty close.
I'm pushing for them to get
I call most Fujo bait canon, but this
seems canon.
I could definitely maybe true. Yeah, and like if you notice how Bamba dresses, like he was wearing like this white sweater. It was like wide at the shoulders, like I would see a woman wear.
Well, I see like Japanese guys wearing that in like the J-pop groups and stuff. That's definitely like Japanese style.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even then, I don't think J-pop is a good excuse.
Like, they have good chemistry as a couple, even. Like, I'm just like, get together, goddamn. But like, but yeah, no.
Man, if it goes this route, I may just give this show to Kat.
Oh, fuck off. You can handle a little.
You can handle it.
You can handle it.
I'll handle it fine.
Just suck it up. Don't be a baby.
One of the things that was funny... what was funny was that, like, I was wondering after this episode that, like, it really, like, ended this whole arc, and, like, you know, Ling, like, sister is dead, and, like, he doesn't really have anything left to fight for now, because all the guys who, like, killed his sister are dead now.
Yeah, and he was going to leave, but then Bomba's like, no, you owe me 5 years of...
Like, spicy
Bomba's
bro.
Yeah.
Stay, bae, I love you. Like...
Oh, God.
But, like, yeah, I was wondering, where do you think the show goes from here? Like, there was a little preview at the end where it was like, there's a new hitman, it looks like, that's going to be introduced, or if he's not a hitman, then he's like a murderer or something that they'll have to deal with. But I was wondering, like, I thought, like, okay, we can get more into Bomba's past, perhaps, and why he became the Niwaka samurai, but it might just be like the continuing adventures of this group.
I think it'll be the continuing adventures. I think this is one of those shows where it's always going to be very fast action all the time. It's one of those shows where you have to pause and rewind it several times each episode and go back because things happen like snap, 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 right?
Yes,
and you have to
definitely
keep it in your brain and like sometimes rewind it and watch it again. It actually reminds me a lot of Dara. Like I think I already said before.
Yeah.
Like it's very quick. You've got to be focused. You got to like you can't turn around and like go get your beer or whatever. Like no, you need to be staring at that screen. Can't take your eyes away for a second. That's what this show is.
I will say that while Durarara and Bakano are like sometimes like intentionally trying to confuse you about like the timeline though, like this show keeps a pretty steady timeline of events, and that makes it a little bit easier to follow than like a Durarara.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but it is one of those shows where like you have to really pay attention. It's not one of those anime shows where you can kind of like relax and watch it. It's like this is an active, because I always have the thing where I say like how much work do you have to do to watch the show? Like, is it an active watch or is it like a relaxing watch? And this is definitely like, it requires a lot more work from the viewer than some other shows. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. Another show that you definitely have to pay attention to, as we find out when we get to episode 4, is Grancrest Senki.
God damn, I can't keep track of anything in this show. Thank God you were following it.
This
yeah, dude,
show.
like I read your notes in episode 4 and I went, oh, dude, well, this is so-and-so and he was because of him, and you're just like, thank God you're paying attention.
I can't hardly pay attention to this show either. Like,
I mean, I like a lot of the action scenes in this show, but it's just I'm having trouble following the like politics as it evolves, basically.
Well, like you guys just said, I think it's easy to follow, but you can't look away. You can't look over and read what somebody just posted in a Discord chat, because you may miss that one line or that one action scene, or seeing one character standing to a next one, knowing that they're partners.
By the way, which show are we talking about right now?
Grancrest Senki.
Yeah, Grancrest Senki. Just so
I
people
opened
know.
it with that. Yeah. No, I opened it with it. It's cool.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I've already lost you.
Bcom was like, all right, this is my cue to check out. Like,
yeah, if you speak the words Grancrest Senki to Bcom, he shuts down.
No, I don't, because it's from the director of Rakugo Shinju, so it must be a classic show.
I fell asleep twice trying to watch episode 4, just to let you know,
really?
Leo. Like, I tried to watch it 2 separate nights, and both nights I fell asleep on the couch watching it.
Yeah, I'm just really liking the show because I do watch a little bit of fantasy, but I feel like this one's more like a really solid fantasy. So like,
it is
really
like there's been some bad fantasies in the past couple of years, and this is definitely a step above those ones. Yeah.
All right, let me get us started. Episode 3, Battle Flag. Theo is visited by a sister named Priscilla from the Order of the Crest, requesting that he join them. He doesn't make any decision yet, but Theo and Silica are talking when a chaos disaster occurs in the castle town.
Don't you hate it when a chaos disaster happens in your town?
I mean, it's already killed the 2 kings from the first episode, so good God.
I just love the name Chaos Disaster.
Yeah. God,
I had a chaos disaster in the bathroom, guys.
I know.
Don't go in there.
It's tough.
It's like, God, guys, did you hear what happens in a neighboring village? Chaos disaster right at dinner time. It's horrible. Okay, so they arrive to find a salamander is attacking them. It's a giant flaming salamander, so Silica eventually defeats it by using water from the well. And Bcom's eyeballs fell out of his head because he really liked the animation.
Yeah, I actually thought that was a really well animated scene. Like, she like lifts this water out of the well and like encases that fire demon thing in it. And I was just like, wow, that is actually really well done. I wasn't sure that this show had that in it, like to animate that well, but it does. At certain moments anyway.
Yeah. Moreno, the other magician, has also been sent to negotiate with the King of Savas. The negotiations didn't go well at all, and the king says he will meet them on the battlefield. Turns out Theo is greatly outmatched and has letters sent to the Free Lords of Savas requesting their help. As the two armies wait on their sides of the battlefield, the civilians that were saved from the salamander attack show up ready to fight. This prompts Theo to use his crest to create his flag. It's called a Patriot flag, and now everybody has this symbol over their left breast. The next day, the battle starts, and it feels like, to me, it felt like Theo and his friends aren't having any trouble defeating the bigger army. Not to mention, Theo has, like, Assassin Guy Irvine, and then Sheila, the battle-crazed Juggernaut, and also Lord David's special guys. He has, like, a guy who's, like, he's, what's the arrow guy from Lord of the Rings?
Oh, like Legolas, yeah.
He has his own Legolas, basically. He has the guy who can turn his skin to, like, rock hard stone. Yeah.
So ridiculous. I really liked that archer, though. Like, I liked the animation of him, like, firing off 3 arrows really fast, and, like, the sound design of that. It sounded good.
Yeah, and, like, King Savas just has regular humans. Nobody special. So I was like, okay. But anyways, the Free Lords of Savas show up, and they all quickly take out the other army. King Savas does seem to escape. After the battle, Silica petitions to Lady Marianne probably, that Theo would like to join her in the Factory Alliance.
The Factory Alliance?
Okay, so am I right that Silica, because this gets all confused in my head. So Silica was originally part of the Alliance?
She was going to be that that king's magician.
Well, but okay, I thought that the king that she originally was going to go to and then sort of abandoned was part of the Union. But she was originally from, like, because her dad or whatever is from the Alliance, right?
Yes. Her dad, well, her adopted father is actually Lady Marianne's right-hand man.
Yeah. So, like, her dad is from the Alliance, but she decided, maybe because of this guy's, like, reputation, that she was going to go serve with this guy.
I believe she was chosen.
And that kind of confused me, because I'm like, does it not matter? Like, do people just kind of flip a lot?
I think when there's like the magician schools are neutral, and then they can be chosen by lords, or they may be able to choose their own lords in the process. I believe that's how it worked.
Okay, because
that's how the political system.
They don't do a good job of explaining, like, why she would go to a lord that was opposite of, like, her fam. It's really confusing.
I agree. Well, like, I thought, like, parts of the setup for the series feel a little bit rushed.
Yeah, I mean, in the first episode, the other lord chose her. So however the system works, you can be chosen. So, like, that's just we knew how it was. But then she abandoned him and went with the other guy instead. Okay. So, like, I guess you do have some choosing in the way.
Well,
I'm not
she
really sure.
Supposed to. She wasn't supposed to choose. She just did.
Yeah. So into some more of that. We can get into episode 4, Decision. So Lady Marine has denied Silica's request to join them and has threatened them that Theo turn over his lands and title, or the Valderan Order of Knights will invade and take the lands back. Silica replies that the next time they will meet will be on the battlefield. Theo has three gates he has to defend on his territory: a west and east gate and a central gate. He sends Lord Lassic to the west, some knockoff character that gets killed at the east gate that I can even know of, and Ashila to the middle gate. The battle begins, and the enemy forces have, like, magic crossbows that can do, like, some serious damage. It's like they're like almost missiles. I mean, even more powerful than cannonballs. They're pretty crazy. They're just wrecking these walls.
Yeah, and, like, Aishella is, like, running down the wall. Like, it definitely reminded me of Attack on Titan as she's, like, running down that wall. It, like, reminded me of Mikasa, like, running or like flying down like a wall at like a Titan or something. It wasn't quite as well animated as Attack on Titan, but they did animate it pretty well. It looked pretty good.
Yeah. So their forces are overwhelming, and after Sheila had killed a few, makes a retreat, but she takes one of the bolts through her right shoulder. She's on her deathbed, but Priscilla, the sister from the last episode, from the Order of the Crest, shows up and starts healing her instead. Apparently, she's extremely powerful. She's probably royalty, is what the show is hinting at.
She has like a crest that she heals with or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Lord Lassig is retreating and leads the other army leader by the king, who is the king of Savas, up a narrow path. Once they are in single file, Lord Lassig takes them all on one by one because he cannot be defeated one-on-one, according to his buddy. And he makes his way all the way to the king and eventually kills him in battle. The king was trying to retreat in the process, but the stone skin guy was like blocking their escape, so they couldn't get away. Which is interesting because he was at the central gate second ago, so I don't know what happened there. There must have been some time lapse in talk about. Silica tries to negotiate a ceasefire, but Valdrin will only agree if they give them Theo's life. Obviously, they won't agree, but during this little meeting with the Lords Valdrin and Marianne, they argue about sending most of their forces to crush Theo. That's a different meeting. Sorry. There's a different meeting where Valdrin and Marianne argue about sending most of their forces to crush Theo, or something. I don't know. It was really weird.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to follow.
But the head mage warns if the Earl of Artuk attacks, there won't be enough troops left back to defend Marine. The arrogant lords send most of their forces, and of course the Earl of Artuk attacks. Villar shows up, and they have to retreat to defend Marine, resulting in a huge victory for Theo. Earl Villar shows up and negotiates with Theo. They settle that Theo will be a knight under the Earl and will continue to employ Silica as his mage. His current court title will be handed over to Lord Lassig, who will be the new king of Savas.
Yeah, like Theo basically turns down becoming the king because he wants to stay with his waifu. Like, legit.
That was basically it, yeah.
Yeah, which is cute, but like, if you really think about how long they've been together and everything, it doesn't make much sense as a character decision. Like, my biggest like beef with the show is that like the action is really good and like the fight scenes are really good, but even the political intrigue is sometimes interesting, but it's very confusing. They don't set it up well, and like the characters, like the decisions they make don't always make sense.
Yeah, I mean, Silica's been shown that she seems to, be attracted to Theo. She blushes and stuff, but Theo has shown absolutely zero interest into Silica other than just choosing to keep her as his magician.
You know what I think about the world building for this show? I think it's a chaos disaster. That's what I think.
Oh my god.
No, it's not that bad, but like, yeah, I find myself just being really confused, and I'm like thanking my lucky stars that Leo locked this and has to review it every week.
Yeah,
it feels like lost. When you go to like a lecture, right, and you haven't been paying attention, and it's like month 3 of this class, and you don't understand anything that's going on, and you feel like you've missed something, but like maybe not. That's what this show feels like.
Yeah. You Bcom, in your notes, you were like, who are these people? Like there was like 2 characters, you had no idea who they were, and like I just quickly typed back into your notes. I'm like, oh well, this is the guy from so and so, and then this guy was with this guy. That's why he's with this guy now.
And like, I guess I just looked away, or like I missed that scene. It happened quickly enough that I was just
and it's hilarious because the 2 people who picked, Irvine and the Stone guy, because they both had a battle together.
I had no memory of that, I guess.
And Irvine stabbed him in the he threw a knife into his eye. That's how he was able to overcome his stone. So like, it was just hilarious that you picked these 2 people. I'm like, those 2 actually had a whole like couple minutes together.
Yeah, I guess I like filed it away in my brain as like, oh, this isn't going to be that important. I guess I can ignore this. But yeah, but in general, I found like the animation of the fight scenes to be like fairly well done for like a fantasy show. I think the character designs are fun. I don't know, like, so I'm still following it. Like, I think it's interesting. I'm wondering where it goes from here, because it's clearly like the first arc of a big story. So We'll see.
Yeah, because now it's going to be Earl Villar against Lady Marine. Basically, because they're the two biggest factions.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's definitely where we're going from here. We'll just have to see who wins.
Villar really likes his under 25 mages.
Oh yeah, baby.
That was it. That's why he chose Silica. I mean, just saying.
Yeah.
And speaking of sexual desires.
Oh yeah.
Here we
On
go.
Saturday.
You like those transitions, dude? My transitions are on point today.
Yes. One of these times, Kat's gonna have a fire transition. It's gonna be sick.
I'm just saying this fucking show. We need more shows like Darling in the Franxx.
All right, let's get into it. So, Darling in the Franxx, episode 3. So, we have this like little flashback to the kids as small children, and we confirmed that they literally gave each other names that are based on like the number that was assigned to them. So, like Ichigo is number 15, which is like Ichi and Go. Like 1-5.
Yep.
So very, innovative naming system. Their bond goes back a long way, obviously. And so like Goro tells Hiro that like he and Ichigo are two of like the only kids that are left from like that have numbers that were in the teens, like 15 and whatever. So they're basically like siblings because of that. But yeah, Hiro is just really determined to try to ride with 002 again, quote unquote ride. But the other pairs aren't so quick to accept that
you can do that all day in this show,
quote unquote, anywhere in the show.
This show is like weird polyamory, the anime. So like you've got like Ichigo being like, oh, I really just want to fuck Goro, and like Ichigo's partner is like, I guess I'm just gonna stand aside and like this is cool with me, and like
yeah,
it's hilarious. Like I don't know, it's fun.
I guess they don't all like fully understand like the psychology of their actions, but yeah, it's very clear to a viewer.
They do. It's almost like they just don't have any cultural like baggage.
True. Yeah. Because they just like were sheltered. I think Leo said that in his notes. Like these kids are very sheltered.
My note, Jesus, they sheltered the hell out of these kids.
Yes.
That's my literal note right here.
So yeah, Hiro he's determined to ride with 02 again. But like the other pairs are like not so sure that he can even pilot. Like Mitsuru is the one who speaks up, especially, and says like, Hiro, he was like unconscious in the cockpit, so of course he can't actually pilot. He can't even remember what happened. And like the adults are confused why Hiro was even able to survive piloting Strelitzia, which is that FranXX, with such little damage to his body. And they think it might have something to do with this special specimen, which is 02. What were you going to say, Kat?
Yeah, I think it's Strelitzia is how they say it. I don't know. No.
Oh, is it really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They say it in a weird German way that's like...
Yeah. Strelitzia.
Strelitzia.
So 02 takes Hiro to a part of the station he doesn't have access to. They like walk through this security barrier at the same time, which tricks the system so they can get through. And he finally sees like the inner city that is underneath this plantation underground. And I guess Hiro and the other children have never actually even seen or set foot in this city before. They've just always been trained to be in the plantations, like protecting the cities. And Hiro says to 02, I could give you a name if you want. But she says, like, we're just going to die as nameless statistics anyway. And then she kind of half-jokingly asks, like, do you want to run away with me and just leave all of this stuff behind? So she said she was kidding, but clearly she's really not. Yeah.
They do have this, like, they do the thing with the passing security barriers, like, several times. And it makes me think it's just another symbolism of, like, together we can do things that, like, we can't individually.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, when they are together, they can do things that they couldn't apart, for sure. Like the whole like flightless bird analogy from the beginning, where it's like when they join wings together, they can fly, but without it, they can't. So, yeah, there's an emergency at the base, and Hiro is like left on the sidelines, and all the other pairs go out to fight. because there's this like Klaxosaur that's been causing trouble underground, like by their magma mine or something. So Mitsuru and Ikuno are forced to stay behind because for some reason Ikuno can't get it up for Mitsuru that time. So she can't like interface with the mech, whatever. So they're sidelined.
Really Mitsuru's fault, right? Like,
yeah, I think it was definitely Mitsuru's fault because he was clearly distracted by 02 and all that stuff that was happening.
I think that like their relationship is just like an example of like a shithead dude like just being an asshole to his girlfriend all the time, and his girlfriend just like takes it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, and everything gets blamed on her, but like she's okay with this.
Just takes it.
Yeah, she wants to like do her job still, I guess. And like, but yeah, Mitsuru is like, maybe we have compatibility issues, and like as he's saying this to like one of the commanding officers, like the other three come under attack, and they underestimate the power of this little black and blue Klaxosaur thing that's down by the mine. And they don't quite get it like in its core or in its heart. And so they just end up attracting a bunch more Klaxosaurs to their location, and they're in a lot of trouble. And 02 is like, oh, I told you this is what would happen when you don't send me in. Just send me in with my darling. I just want to go and kill everything. But they won't let Hiro pilot because he's not like an officially registered stamen or whatever. So instead, Mitsuru is like, well, I could pilot with 02. Like, clearly, if somebody like Hiro could do it, I can handle it. And 02 is against it. And she's like, don't you agree with me, Hiro, that like you don't want me to ride with somebody else? Like, you don't want me to ride with some other guy, do you, Hiro? And Hiro just thinking about his friends, and he's like, please do it. Just go save my friends, basically.
So if you just want to change a couple words to sex there.
Okay, but it's really, it's not about, I don't think him wanting his, I mean, obviously he wants her to save his friends, right? It's really about him feeling conflicted about like whether he should even be with her and all this stuff. Yeah. And like him feeling like he wants her to want him and he wants her to say no. He doesn't want to have to protest himself.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting.
And like, so they Mitsuru ends up going with 02, and he like tells Hiro on his way out, like, you're going to regret being such a goody two shoes about this. He's such a little dick. But, Ichigo hears that Strelitzia is like on its way to save them, and she like screams like, who's piloting it? Like, she wants to know if it's Hiro, and she thinks of like kissing Hiro, and when she does that, like, she loses her connection with Goro, and like his controls in the FranXX become like really heavy. So it just shows when like the two aren't like focused on each other, like they lose connection, and it causes the FranXX to barely work. So yeah, Mitsuru though, he's able to like interface with 02, at least at first, and he's like doing really well. He's like harnessing all of her power, but he kind of like goes crazy with power, and he's like offering like, will you just become my official partner? And like Hiro's like grimacing at this back in the control room, but 02 is like, oh, then I guess I can try going all out then, can I? And like the female like commanding officer knows what this means, and she's like, no, come back, don't stop. And then like they cut off communications, and she's like, get ready to go retrieve that FranXX. And when it's pulled up, like 02 comes out and waves to Hiro with like a smile, but Mitsuru is bleeding from his nose and his ears, and 02's the only thing she says is like, he wasn't cut out to be my darling. So that was pretty mean of her, but like, yeah, she just wants to be with Hiro, and she doesn't want to be with anyone else, and she doesn't care what the consequences are. Also, yeah, there were some choice lines this episode, like the doctor telling them that parasites are better off being a little bit pervy. And also when like Goro and Ichigo are in the mech and they're like connecting for the first time, Goro's like, are you ready, Ichigo? And she's like, yes, come to me. Just so good. You guys, anything on this episode before I go to the next one?
I felt it obvious that that kid, whatever his name was going to come back super fucked up.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
It was an obvious setup.
Yeah, he was in trouble. He was too confident.
Yeah. Also, I thought it was really interesting. They have never shown Zero in this sub position as of yet.
Yeah, I had been theorizing about that, like thinking that maybe she was the pilot and he was the sub, but it turns out in the next episode that's not the case.
That wasn't my theory. My theory was just that the show's not showing you because they're going to set it up for the main character to have her in a sub position, and then lo and behold, episode 4 happens.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, the council who are running this battle against the Klaxosaurs, behind the scenes, they decide that they need to recall 02 because she's this special specimen. Clearly, she's like part Klaxosaur, part human. And they need her to stop pairing up with these, quote, tainted parasites.
Okay, real quickly. She's part Klaxosaur, part human. So was this a science experiment?
It seems
I think so.
Did a Klaxosaur shag a human? That's all I'm saying.
I think.
Well, they might have like artificially inseminated like a human.
At some point, I think I remember them having some aside about like she's the only one left. So I think there might have originally been several of these little experiments, and she's the only one left.
Yeah, and they make some reference to some group of fighters called the Nines who are on the front lines fighting the Klaxosaurs. So maybe they have something to do with it, but they didn't really get into that this episode. So Mitsuru is like recovering from almost dying because he rode with 02, and he warns Hiro not to ride with her. Like, obviously, if he goes with her again, he's gonna die. And he tells everybody that like she was basically trying to kill him inside the mech. Like, he says like she was trying to devour everything that I was, is what he says. And 02 looks down on the parasites as like weaklings because her powerful abilities with the FranXX like make her look at everybody else like they're not even important. Like, she just believes that she should just do all the fighting and everybody else is just useless. But the officers tell her like, you're going back to the front lines, and she's clearly pissed about it. But Ichigo is also pissed at Hiro because he's still determined to ride with 02, even though he knows like if he rides with her 2 more times, he might die. And Ichigo is very clearly in love with Hiro, like or if she doesn't know what that feeling of love is, like she clearly cares about him, going back to when she was a little kid. But Plantation 13 is the place where they is preparing for a kissing with Plantation 26. I don't know what that means, but it's a funny term. I guess like they're going to hook up with that station.
Yeah, it's still with all the sexualization stuff. I mean, come on. Obviously. They're docking. I mean, they might as well stuck with docking. What the hell do you think that means? Good God.
Just imagine like 2 giant like space stations just like French kissing, like making out.
Yeah, basically. Oh, man. So 02 finds Hiro and she wants to confront him about all this stuff, and he's naked and alone in the boys' baths, and like she pushes him back up against the wall and asks him like, will you run away from all these other weaklings with me? And she kind of like threatens him by like putting her like visor that has horns like pressed up like right in front of his eyes, and she asks him like, or do you think I'm just a monster like everybody else thinks? And he doesn't have time to respond before this big worm Klaxosaur starts attacking. So all the FranXX are dispatched, and even Mitsuru, who's barely recovered, goes out with Ikuno, and like Ikuno is kind of like reassured by Ichigo earlier in this episode that like, you know, you have to just like be with your partner and like support him. Like, he's an idiot, but like he doesn't mean like bad. And so like Ikuno is able to connect with her mech again this time and like support Mitsuru. And meanwhile, though, while they're all out fighting, like a SWAT team basically comes in, like a team of soldiers to take 02 back to the front lines. And she like goes up to Hiro, and she's got like laser guided like guns pointed at her, and she tells Hiro like, this could have worked out, but I really wanted to be with you, but this is goodbye, sorry. But Hiro decides like he has to say something to her, so he runs after her and he yells that like, I wasn't afraid of riding with you because I thought you were like a monster or anything. It was because I didn't have the resolve inside myself to ride with you and like to think that I could be a pilot. And he realized that like he never cared about piloting a FranXX in the first place. But after witnessing like 02's like astonishing beauty. He literally just wanted to ride with her specifically. We know what that means. So 02 smiles and she like breaks away from the whole squad and like does this crazy jump and gets back to Hiro and like just delivers fantastic dialogue. She's like, nobody's ever said such embarrassing things to me before. And he's like, well, it's a first time for me too. And then she's like, you want to ride me, huh? And she like makes him yell it out loud, like, yes, I like want to ride with Strelitzia again. And then she like takes him by both hands and they sort of like dance their way to like the hangar. And they get into the FranXX. And as they blast off, Hiro is like finally conscious and he's really piloting a FranXX for the first time. And he tells 02, like, I feel myself going deeper inside you. I can't tell where I end and where you begin anymore, but I love it. And
that line literally made me pause it and just put my hands over my eyes and face and just sit there and contemplate.
When
like,
he says that line, it's like so weirdly pervy looking. Like he has this weird grimace.
Like gleeful.
Like he has this weird grimace on his face that's like half like, oh yeah, and like half. I don't know. It's interesting. Like,
and also 02 is finally in the sub position.
And she's like, we're a perfect fit, aren't we?
Oh God, dude, the lines.
It's so good. It's so good. I laughed so hard. It's so good.
Are these the subs fucking with us?
No,
or
it's
is this
not.
Like
it's
the legit
not.
dialogue.
It's legit.
This is insane.
The reason the lines are funny is because it's not even like teasing or jokes between them. Like they're delivered so flatly because I feel like they don't have cultural like reference for this to be like teasing. They're just saying things, and that makes it even more hilarious.
It's like he's literally discovering, like when he's discovering that feeling of being connected to her, and that's the only way he knows how to describe it. And like for us who have all this baggage, it comes off as like super pervy and everything, and funny. But for them, it's like this honest feeling of like sexual awakening. So it's fun. So yeah, they join the fight against this big worm, and like the other FranXX are able to like pin down the worm, and then like Strelitzia and like Hiro like pilot their way into the worm and like pierce its core. And it was interesting, as they fly by Ichigo's mech, the mech's face like sort of smirks at Ichigo, like it's like 02 saying like, hey, I'm flying with your boy, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, basically.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, she's rubbing it in her face for sure.
Yeah. And in the end, like the battle data, like from the fight, like the commander says, like, this kind of changes everything. I have to tell, quote, Papa and the other Elder Council, like, that this guy can actually is compatible with 02 and he can fly this FranXX. So that might change their decision to send her back to the front lines without him. So yeah, that was Darling in the FranXX. It's still just as fun.
No, I really enjoy this show. I mean, like, I poke fun at it, but like, I enjoy watching. I think the animation's really good.
This show is epic. Everyone wants to hate on this show. Fuck all of them.
It's Trigger and A1. Give me a break. It's going to be pretty decent, at least.
Yeah, I love the pairs of kids, and I love their character designs are so good as well. Like, I just think they're all like really
even
individual.
when they're paired up with their mechs, it's really cool.
Except for maybe the guy who just like plays soccer while he's eating food because he just can't stop eating. That guy. I don't
actually,
know
that's one of my favorite ones because he's paired with the blonde girl, right?
Yes, he is. I want to learn more about them for sure. Like, I want to see that dynamic. I do like the girl with the annoying kid who kind of looks like a young Asuka or something from Evangelion. Like, I just like her a lot. She's got a cute voice. But yeah, I like the dynamic between all the different pairs, and I think they're all going to get their own moments to shine, sort of.
Wow. Okay.
That was the last show we're reviewing, right, guys?
Yeah, Jesus. There's one more in this document.
Oh wait, yeah, there is. There's one more thing.
I am refusing to watch it because I've read the manga and I cannot bring myself to suffer through it again.
Well, that's fine because I will present to you the CiTRASH update. So, in episode 3 of CiTRASH, Yuzu decides that the various sexual assaults that Mei has perpetrated on her have led to one inevitable outcome. She's now in love. So her suspension is revoked by like Mei's grandfather because Yuzu took him to a hospital when he had like a stroke, and Mei talked to him about like how she's actually not a bad girl. And then Yuzu tries to understand her sisterly love for Mei by reading a Yuri sister love manga called Peach Sisters. And of course,
because that's how you understand life, is you read manga about it, right?
Specifically Yuri manga. You
read like hentai about it, right? Because that
absolutely
the real facts.
And I thought it was funny how like Harumin like instantly tried out some of the girl on girl positions in the manga when they're in like, she was looking through the manga in like a private net cafe room, and she's like, oh, let's try this out. Because everybody in this show is into each other. So things escalate back home because Yuzu's mom bought the girls a double bed to sleep in together.
Just dumb as fuck. Like, that's not...
I honestly, if they just made this a hentai, I would have liked this a lot better.
It is kind of on that level of writing for sure. Yuzu gets an irresistible urge to touch Mei that night, but Mei like senses it and wakes up, and she tells Yuzu, you know, the only reason I kissed you in the first place was it was the easiest way to shut you up at the time because you were so annoying. And she says like, I have no interest in you whatsoever.
Which is a lot.
And like the next day, like Yuzu's really upset about that, of course. And then Mei scolds Yuzu the next day after she finds like the Yuri manga in her bag during like a classroom inspection. So Yuzu, who is fed up with Mei's bullshit, like is called to the office by Mei, and Mei is like gonna yell at her, but she pushes Mei down onto the chairman's desk and just like forces a kiss on her, and then cries saying, "This is all because you kissed me." And
the rapey shit I'm doing to you is all your fault because
it's all your fault. You made me this way.
To me.
Oh god.
No, that's not how it works.
I don't think any of this is how any of this works. But episode 4, we basically find out that the vice president of the student council, Himeko, was close childhood friends with Mei, and she's very overprotective of her and feels like she needs to take care of her. And she hates that Yuzu has gotten so close, you know. And clearly Himeko wants to be with Mei, obviously. So we see a flashback of them as little girls, and Himeko like quite literally like just clings to her arm all times, and like it's revealed that something happened between Mei and her father at a certain point that leaves her in this current state. Like he left, and there was probably something that happened that caused him to leave, and ever since then she's been very insular and very distant. So we can always assume what that might have been, but we don't know. And did I mention that Himeko just loves wearing gothic Lolita clothing? Because she does. But yeah, Yuzu apologizes to Mei for what she did to her in the chairman's office, but Mei sees it's clear that Yuzu needs more closure on the matter, so she just kisses her again. And it's funny because Yuzu just like grabs her head and starts screaming like a monkey or something.
There is not enough whiskey in this state to fucking keep listening to this shit. Oh my god.
Well, I'm almost done, so I don't know. Himeko is pissed that Yuzu is like now walking to school with Mei, and she wants to mark her territory, so she goes to Mei in the student council room and forces herself on her, utilizing her secret knowledge that Mei's weak spot is her ears. It's so ridiculous. And it's like, so yeah, Himeko tells Yuzu the next day that she finally crossed the line with Mei, and she wants Yuzu to support their relationship. And I just thought it was kind of like everything in the show is kind of screwed up, but like it was very screwed up that like everybody in Mei's life, like her fiance, her childhood friend, and her sister-in-law are all like trying to have sex with her. Like I kind of feel bad for her, except that she's like also sexually assaulting Yuzu. So I don't know. It's just a mess. It's just such a mess.
Yeah. So earlier I had that poem about citrus.
Oh yeah.
And I did some diving, and I did find out who it was from. And it originally came from at Vestenet at Twitter, which is VESTENET.
Well, good for them.
It originated from, for at least me. So.
Any of you guys have any thoughts on this pile of trash that is citrus? This wonderful trash?
Set it on fire.
Yeah, it's just dumb. I don't know. They've done, once again, like I said before, they've introduced another yaoi trope in the stalking horse figure, and they'll just I'm sure it'll just continue to be
Yaoi.
like
You mean Yuri?
A Yuri. Well, no, it's so okay. There's not very many Yuri that are as explicit as this one is, right? And I think that Yaoi has a lot more of a history of having anime that are more explicit with like sex scenes and rape scenes in them. And so this is.
Did you ever watch Sakura Trick?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I watched some of that. That was a very cutesy, like...
Actually, I watched that entire series and I liked it. I think that was a year or two ago.
Yeah, and that's a Yuri series a lot of people like because it is very cutesy and very innocent. It doesn't have these, like, weird, rapey tropes from yaoi
and it's
anime.
literally two girls starting to learn that they like each other, and the farthest they go is just, like, some kissing.
Yeah, so, like, this just reminds me of a yaoi a lot. Like, I know... The way that they've set it up, the way that they're doing the tropes, the rapiness, like a lot of these are things that show up in most yaois, which is not a good thing, but it is what it is. So
pretty much.
It just seems like they're kind of, they wanted a Yuri that was explicit. It's almost never been done before. They didn't quite know what to base it off of, and so they're using some of these tropes to, get there. So. Yeah,
I mean, it's fun to watch because it is ridiculous. Like, in kind of like in the way Darling in the Franxx is ridiculous. So it keeps me entertained, but man, is it just over the top at times and really dumb.
It's
I hope you two keep enjoying watching this because I'm not going to look at it once.
Hey, you read it, so you have.
I read it. I'm horrible, and I think it's still ongoing. And like when it updates, I just skip it. I can't. I got pretty far. I'm way farther than where you guys are at now.
Gotcha. So you know some of the horrors that are to come. That's good.
But if I remember correctly, the manga is much less explicit than this anime.
Yeah, when there was the scene where you talk about like she took something from her, but like she did it by like grabbing her ass and running her hand up her butt crack. I'm like, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, they've definitely added some.
And I'm sitting here, I'm like, what
spice.
girl likes a man's fingers up her butt crack? But whatever.
Depends on the girl, Leo. Depends on the girl. Speaking of which,
but still, geez,
Kat, we're so excited that you joined the podcast. Thanks for showing up for the first episode. Hope this will be a fun, productive relationship as we go through. But yeah, that's basically it. I think we're done here. So thank you for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts and videos. And follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates as well. But beyond that, that's it. See you next week.
Yeah.
Later.
Bye.